think what you're essentially saying is that if you have a makeout sesh with a person and you're in public and a kid sees you and you
Do you
defend
think that
later.
there's a difference between a makeout session and appealing to someone's foot fetish?
Yeah, actually, a makeout session is way more involved. There's physical contact and people can see what's going on. With a foot fetish, literally nobody knows because you're just barefoot. They just see a barefoot person.
Nobody knows, though.
So yeah, so I would actually say that. So first of all, neither of them enable pedophilia. But second of all, that the makeout sesh is actually whatever characteristics you're approximating, the makeout sesh is much more so. So.
No, but it doesn't matter. The whole point is that it doesn't matter if the kids don't know. The point is that you
what they see matters, isn't it? That's why we care about PDA.
Being able to do sex acts in front of kids. That is the point. It doesn't matter if they don't know. I would say that their consent is violated.
Yeah, I think I've more or less exhausted my patience here. I would say what you're making right here is an argument that hurts children. I think this is a moralist. Wait, hold on. What? I think this is an insane. Hold, Riley. I'll mute you. I think this is an insanely moralist argument that serves no purpose other than to dilute the meaning of actual child sex abuse, and you're using it specifically because you have some kind of weird fucking beef with this subject. I think it's borderline reprehensible that you would ever try to hop onto something as innocuous as making out with people in public and use it to justify.
How is that?
Like making out, you think making out in public is tantamount to non-consensually involving children in acts. I hope to God you've never made out with somebody in public, Riley, because if that's what you were thinking of, I'm disgusted. Okay, Doe and RGR had a conversation. RGR is she, her. Doe is it, its. Don't be cringe in chat. Oh, also, there's, I think, like, maybe 2/3 of the way in, there's going to be, what's the right term? An aggressively traumatic description of a life event. You know, viewers be advised, etc., etc. I don't want to hear you all bitching at me, if you don't listen to me, okay? Fair? Is that fair? Okay? Yeah, all right. Good. I want to hear that shit coming back at me.
I mean, if you'll call me they, it's usually.
I'm gonna have this at 1.25 because I forget how long it goes. Also, the context before this that I saw was that RGR and so RGR blocked Doe on Twitter some time ago, and Doe claimed that RGR had called Doe a pedophile, because of some argument over kink at Pride or like being sexy in public or something, you know, something like that. Doe was calling RGR out. RGR unblocked Doe. They agreed to debate. Now they're debating. Now the only the introduction, I'm not gonna have that much to say, I don't think. So we're gonna have to wait for a little bit until things get really spicy. Okay. I believe in you guys. I know you're all very patient people. All right. Yeah, it gets a little bit messy, I think.
Not a big deal. It's whatever. Like I said, I definitely prefer it's.
Hello.
A smidge messy.
Oh.
Doe, you are live on the RGR live stream.
I should turn you up just a little bit.
Okay. How goes it?
Did you say how goes it?
Yeah, I asked how goes it.
Yeah, it's going okay. Well, we've been streaming for a little bit. I waited here for a little bit. Your conversation. I was back in like 30 seconds and you started a brand new conversation. I was back so quickly.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The reason I brought on Malcolm was because Malcolm had actually been here waiting since like the beginning of the stream.
Yeah, I saw they were here before me. It's all right. I just, I was here so quick. I didn't think that you were gonna move on, but that's okay. Did you have a good conversation? We didn't listen to it. I have no idea what you guys talked about. Your chat seems to say it's about Calvin Gara, but I don't know anything.
It was in part about that. It was interesting.
Okay.
So I'm assuming. Do you mind if I read out the initial tweet that you sent at me to come on?
We're watching from the perspective of Doe. So this is Doe, and the other person is RGR. There, it's the distinguishing for the benefit of all.
I mean, You want to read through the whole thing? I think that would be a little more enlightening than just the first tweet.
I'll read.
We can show it all together if you really want.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's just like the initial ones. Like, hey, Riley Grace Bershong, I'd love to debate. You blocked me and deleted all your videos, tweets after you called me a pedophile repeatedly with zero evidence, aside from me saying not wearing shoes in public is not, quote, involving children in a sex act. First come, first serve, right? Yeah, so I apologize. Malcolm was here. Yeah. I just think the topic was Riley lying and trying to cover her tracks by repeatedly calling the CSA victim a pedophile for not thinking that not wearing shoes is actually okay to do in public is a really good topic. Feel free to let me know.
You added an extra not in there, but yeah.
Oh, sorry. Where did I add?
You said not thinking. It's all right. It's not a big deal.
Okay. No, I unblocked you. And yeah, so I guess I want to begin. Mind if I ask like a couple?
Whoa, can we go a little bit further?
Oh wait, which one?
Oh, I just think that you're leaving off a lot of really important information. Is it okay if we read a little bit more?
Well, in this tweet, it was just the 2 pictures.
Yeah, no, yeah, that tweet is just those 2 pictures, but that wasn't the end of our interaction, right?
There are a lot of other interactions. I asked you if you wanted to talk about gender.
You did ask. You actually said, feel free to talk about gender here when I asked to come on and talk about this other topic.
Yeah, I was interested in talking about multiple topics.
Yeah.
I thought that would be cool because I know that you've talked about gender before. And I am also someone who talks about gender a lot. So I was
that's
super
not pigeon. That's
interested in talking to you, but like, I know that
lines.
you very strongly do not want to talk about gender with me. And I don't know why, but yeah, you don't have to. I'm not going to force you to.
Okay, so I think the context here with the gender is that like I don't know how much of this is stuff that I've touched on directly, but I think that like Doe is full on like, well, I mean Doe literally goes by it's like gender fuck, like I'm dab gender, like what, I'm not hating or whatever, just like they have very loose and I don't know what the term is necessarily. Is it progressive or is it very I don't know, postmodern takes on gender? Something like that. I don't know. And RGR is more to the tune of we need like a rigorous scientific understanding of gender that we adhere to. I think I fall somewhere in between both of them. So I'm not coming in here with a huge bias towards either one of their perspectives on gender.
Yeah.
So
do you mind if I ask you, like, just in here, you said that I repeatedly called you a pedophile.
I hate that.
So first, can I get like just like all of
Delusian
the places? Like, can you just tell me? You can tell me if I
how about I ask you a question? Around the time this summer of the Kink at Pride conversation, did you private your Twitter and delete all of your tweets?
Yeah, I did. I was getting a lot of harassment at that point.
Oh, I'm sure you were privating your account. I delete my account every once in a while and reactivate it when I'm feeling a little, I've got some other stuff to do and I don't want to focus on Twitter.
Yeah, the reason I deleted a lot of my content and I privated my account was because I was getting harassed a lot by people, mostly associated with you and your community. I was just getting like constantly harassed, and I was just recovering from surgery around that time. So I just had to do that for my own mental health sake.
You had to delete your tweets for mental health?
Yeah, that's a place where people can be able to harass me, yeah.
Well, I mean, you had your account privated. It's a little hard when you're privated.
Well, yeah, I wanted to make sure that when I reopened it, because I wanted to make sure that when I reopened it, that people could not like go through and harass me with the tweets that were still on there. That was around...
Can I ask what harassment means to you? I'm sorry for interrupting. If you want to finish what you were saying, I apologize.
Yeah, so around, I'm trying to remember, was that the Kink at Pride or...
It's around July.
It was around, so that was, wait, hold on. So that would have been, that was Eat the Rich, right? There are a lot of people...
I didn't do anything to you about Eat the Rich.
Well, I know that like around that time, there are a lot of people who were sending me death threats.
Oh, yeah, we saw some of those. I think that that's pretty wrong to send you death threats. I think it's pretty inappropriate, pretty wrong. I'm sorry that you had to go through that. I've experienced similar things.
I admire people in chat were saying they're both acting bitchy already, but my default response here would have been that's cringe. So I think they're actually being more civil than I would be. I just want to say so like thoughts, because my thoughts will become more frequently. I will impose my thoughts more when they actually get to the discussions that are being had. But so they're going to get into it, but essentially, like, I think the implication here is that Doe was kind of insinuating that RGR might have realized she had a bit of a Joker moment and deleted tweets, not just to avoid harassment, but also to avoid getting called out for some of the stuff that she was saying. Now, I don't remember any of the stuff that RGR was saying on Twitter at the time. I have an extraordinarily bad memory, and I have never cared about any drama enough to like go looking for receipts with people. So I don't actually know. So I can't speak to any of that. I will say, like, I don't think that deleting your tweets is a normal thing to do in response to drama. Like, that, I don't think that's normally what people do to avoid harassment, because you can delete your Twitter, or you can disable it, or you can private it, or, like, there are other things, but, like, deleting the tweets doesn't, you know what I mean? That being said, it's impossible to know. So I don't think it, like, necessarily indicates sussy-wussy behavior on its own.
Thanks. I'm sorry about that.
You went looking for receipts when you debated Mel. Those weren't receipts. Those were my tweets from like an hour ago. I don't know if those were digging up receipts. That was just my tweet thread, you know? Like there, nothing was deleted. It was just like right there. I mean, like I've never like done digging. I've never investigated because you know. Anyway.
That you have a few members of your community who like to say lots of things about me.
Wait, hold on. So do you have? Wait, hold on. Who in my community has done anything like that?
Gammy.
Gammy? Hold on, wait. Gammy is not part of my community.
She's in your chat right now.
Is anyone who's in my chat? Wait, hold on. You are in my chat.
Yeah, after I was blocked from here, because okay.
Hold on.
Yes.
No, hold on. Hold on. I'm talking to a lot of people who I disagree with. This is the first time that Gammy has been in my chat in months. All right.
Okay, that's fair. But do you remember when you posted a tweet a while back and you said, here's some really good accounts that I think are really important for you to follow for good trans voices, and one of them was Gammy?
Yeah, no, I remember that.
So at some point you agreed with some of the things that she was doing.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of a lot of the more problematic things that Gammy had done. It's actually why I ended up deleting that, or part of the reason why I ended up deleting that and disregarding that. But also, this isn't part of the comment that this isn't what we're talking about. You came here.
I mean, they're all kind of relevant. You were talking about harassment, and I was just curious.
I do remember there was drama at the time because RGR was like, from now on, I am only going to be following good people who contribute positively to discourse and adhere to a rigorous intellectual level of good faith. And then RGR was following Gammy, who's like just a huge cunt on Twitter, I think, and everyone knows it. So it's not like, that's not really an opinion thing. I'm pretty sure like Christ came down and pointed that out. It's sort of an objective. But who's just, I just gave all the descriptors you need. Anyway, so I think I remember people making fun of RGR for that. I think RGR dropped that whole like Twitter standard afterwards. The whole like, I only follow people with this power level or higher, you know, this discourse power level. I think that got dropped after a while, but yeah.
Guess what you consider harassment?
Because why I privated my account and deleted it. So
well, I'm asking why you deleted tweets when you were telling people that others were
hold on, wait, are you saying?
Yeah.
All right. All right. So it's the allegations. I just want to be very clear. Do you have any tweets, or are there any tweets that you're alleging where I called you a pedophile?
All right, here we go.
I don't have any screenshots on me. You deleted them.
So, wait. So hold on. So because I would dispute that is the case, but if I say that, then are you just going to accuse me of lying?
Accuse you of lying for I'm sorry, say that again.
So I would say that I do not remember, to the best of my ability, ever tweeting calling you a pedophile. Do you have any screenshots or evidence of that being the case?
I have a video of you saying that I intentionally or unintentionally was justifying pedophilia. And
okay, we're going to go over that, but
we are going to go over
examples. Yeah, no, we'll go over that. I just want to, you said multiple times, you said here that I called you a pedophile multiple times. I want to know exactly when those multiple times were.
You deleted your Twitter or your tweets. I can't go find them, but I can find the one.
Wait, so I would dispute. I would say that I never tweeted calling you a pedophile.
Okay. You can hold that. I can't push you on that. I believe that you did. You believe that I didn't. I'm not going to call you a liar. That's fine. But you had a video in which you said it.
I had a video. All right, so let's talk about that video, because I think that's what you tweeted here, right?
Yeah, and then your girlfriend, I'm assuming, that's what I was told.
All right, hold on. I'm not going to talk about the video. All right, hold on. I'm not here to defend what my girlfriend said. All right, we're going to talk about what I said. All right.
I think RGR's girlfriend just straight up called Doa pedo. I think I actually remember that. It was over some really weird shit too. Okay, I could actually be like hardcore misremembering this, but I think the context was like Riley literally retweeted her saying it. Really? Hey, hold on. Yeah, that feels kind of like an endorsement of the opinion. Look, I think the context was like, is it pedophilic to not wear shoes outside when your partner has a foot fetish or something like that? It was something like that, like, because now, yeah, like if you're looking at your partner's bare little toesy woesies, that's what foot fetishists call them, and you're like, wow, oh my god, but you're like, you're outside, so there's like, I guess, kids around or something like that. Like, is that abuse of the children? I think that was what it was about. Now, to me, this is almost such a silly hypothetical that even saying it the way that I did just kind of implies that I think it's dumb, but I think that's what they were. Yeah, yeah. I guess I could be wrong on the details, but I think it was basically that. They'll get to it, okay? They'll get to it.
So you're saying that this video
I have no
is evidence
memory.
of me calling you a pedophile. That's
No.
what you're saying.
I do think saying that someone is intentionally or unintentionally justifying pedophilia is calling them a pedophile, because what you're saying is that they think it's okay to do sexual acts to children.
No. Don't twist my words.
I don't think I twisted anything.
I don't think that you are being very honest when you say that. All right. So we can listen to the clip right now. I'll listen to it with my chat.
Okay,
All right.
I guess I have to. Hold on, let me come pull it up really quick. I don't have mine open.
All right. Hold on.
Yeah, you effing with some wet ass P
Let
word.
me go to my media tab.
There's a second clip. Here's a second clip.
So he continues in level of unintelligible nonsense, saying that kink is defined in relation to sexuality, therefore involving children in sexual act. This is intentional or not, the stupidest sleight of hand I've ever seen. What the fuck are you talking about?
That's an insane thing to say to me. I don't know like how that's a defensible statement. Like, if you're defining something in relation to sexuality, and then you are suggesting that children should be involved in that, you're involving children in sexuality. That's the most logically valid string of words that I can think of off the top of my head, right? So like,
wait, are you done already? I think
I'm waiting for. I was sorry. I was waiting for you. I was.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have a second one that has a little bit more context.
So who was the person speaking there who wasn't RGR in that clip that Doe was looking at? Who was the person who was making the statement that RGR said yes? Lycan? Oh, layman, not Lycan. Okay. And to be clear, we're still talking about going barefoot around foot fetishists outside, right? That's still what we're talking about? Okay. All right.
That's a little bit longer than the one that I quote tweeted with, but that's okay.
Okay. So
We can both play it at the same time now if you want.
All right. Wait. Which one are you playing?
Um,
Is it the same clip?
Well, here. How about I do this?
what?
I've got this one that's got a little bit fuller context.
All right. When you say fuller
Oh
context,
shit!
I love
tried to DM it
context.
to you so you could see it. It's just the previous part of the video. I clicked the one part because
So
it's hard
I
to actually say
actually have-
pedophile, but the minute leading up to it, I also have a separate video of. But we can just watch the quick one if you really want. The
yeah,
20-second one.
Yeah. Well, it's the one that you tweeted at me.
Yeah, the quote tweet. We can watch that one really quick. Ready?
Okay.
All right, 3, 2,
really
1.
weird. Now, a lot of people
Really
who come
weird.
from really
A lot
fun
of
parts of
people
the internet
who come from
are
really
coming
fun
out with
parts of the
really
internet
weird
are coming out
takes
with really
that apparently
weird
kink is
takes
fine to do in front of
that
children. We should be able to
apparently
justify.
do in front of children. We should be able to justify doing it in front of them, even if it's explicitly involving them in a sexual act. Like, what the fuck is going on? This is unironic. Oh my god, they're either negligently justifying pedophilia or intentionally justifying pedophilia. I have no idea what the fuck it is. Okay. So
Yeah.
did you-
And
Okay.
the
So
lead up,
so I'm going to ask you. So where in that clip did I call you a pedophile?
when you say that someone is intentionally or unintentionally, well, there's a couple places.
No, hold on.
Let me
Hold
finish
on.
my
That is
sentence.
not.
Can I
that
please
is
finish my
not
sentence? You
calling
asked me
you
a really
pedophile.
direct question, and you won't let me finish my sentence.
All right, but that is not calling you a pedophile. That's saying that you advocated, that you made an argument that is typical to expect that pedophiles would make. All right?
Okay. So I understand there is a meaningful semantic difference between those two things, but in the context of the online slap fights that we engage in, I think the meaning is not great. The semantic difference is not that significant. There, like, if you're like, well, you called me a pedophile, and then it's like, well, actually, you know, I wish, so this is going to go on for some while, but I wish RGR had owned this, because in the context of like arguing online, I don't think, so I think that Okay. I'm going to be charitable to RGR here, and say, which is my responsibility as the very smart. Now that a man's involved, let me let me take charge of the situation. So I think that's my responsibility. I'm going to be charitable and say that, and I hope RGR wouldn't disagree with me on this. RGR has giga lawyer brain, colossal lawyer brain. Is this annoying? Everyone thinks so all the time for all lawyers. Yes, that's why people make fun of them. It also helps you win cases, so that can be good. But it should be acknowledged that RGR might pay more deference towards specific semantic differences than Doe or myself might. See, for me, like when RGR is like, well, Doe said something which abates or enables pedophilia, like that, like to me, like this is like, okay, so you're calling pedo, you know, but to a person with a fine ear for semantic differences, those are two meaningfully different things. So while I won't say RGR is being duplicitous or like Pepe posting, because I don't think that she is, I do think that it's fair for Doe to proceed undeterred, you know? I think for Doe to move forward going like, yeah, okay, you called me that, like is pretty fair. Because Doe's argument could be, like, obviously there is a, yes, undoter, thank you. There's obviously a level of semantic parsing that people will say is, like, irrelevant. Like, for instance, you know, if you're like, you called me a pedophile, and somebody else says, no, I said, quote, you're all pedophiles. I never use that phrase you claim specifically. I never use the singular. Like, nobody, like, that's a meaningless semantic difference, obviously. Nobody would give a fuck. In this case, there's more of a semantic difference. It just doesn't feel like it's that relevant to Doe's upsettedness. Because Doe was quite upset at being called a pedo, as I think people have a right to be. The only people who don't are all of the people who I errantly called a pedophile while going at my anti-Kinkit Pride Joker rant. You are the only people who have no recourse or reason to complain at all. All the thousands of you. Goodbye.
That is my argument, and I stand by that argument. We can go into the merits of it if you want
Let's go into the merits, because clearly just talking about this one sentence isn't going to go anywhere. So I think it's prudent of us to talk about your definition.
Let's start with exactly what you said. All right. So you said, and I quote, "Some people like feet. If you go shoeless to a public event because your partner likes feet, you're not, quote, involving children in a sexual act." That's what you said, right?
That is what I said.
You're talking about a foot fetish.
I am talking about a foot fetish. I'm proud of you.
Okay. So I want you to answer me this question. If you are getting off your partner's foot fetish around children, do you think it's not a little reasonable for someone to say, okay, this seems like something that a pedophile may argue, and this person either knows what they're doing or they are negligent and they're saying it even though they don't understand its implications?
Okay, so the thing that bothers me here, and again, I have seen this already once. I watched this when it happened. The thing that bothers me here is that it feels like RGR is alternating between high levels of specific language and very, like, tremendous degrees of vagueness. Like the term getting off. Like, what does that mean? Do you mean, because getting off can mean you're literally, like, jerking off. Getting off can also mean, like, you find something attractive and it's, like, hot to you. Because I've heard it used in both of those contexts. Like, I've heard, like asking a person, like, hey, you getting off to how fucking high her dress is? Like, holy shit, the fucking, it's wrapped around the middle of her ass cheeks. Like, I've seen that, I've seen it used in both contexts. So the term here seems a little non-specific, you know?
So, nowhere in this tweet has anyone talked about getting off.
Wait, hold on. What do you think happens when you appeal to someone's sexual kink? Or sorry, we're talking about fetish. We're talking about
sexual desires is what we're talking
about. We're talking about getting off someone else's
No,
fetish.
You keep saying getting off. Why do you keep saying that?
Because that's the only implication. All right, so I guess...
Can I give you an implication? You're allowed to ask questions if you're confused.
I mean, I'm very much not confused. I can guarantee you that. But let me ask you a question.
Well, you haven't represented me correctly yet, so I think you might be just a little bit confused.
I'm going to doubt that, but let me ask you a question. So what is your definition of a sexual act?
So sex acts is like super complex. I think the biggest issue that I actually have, and I mean not biggest, but the first issue I have is probably your definition of sex act. If I remember correctly, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I'll give you a chance to in just a second. That a sex act is any action that occurs with sexual intent, sexual desire, right? Is that about right?
Roughly, it's when you do something intentionally and primarily appealing to yours or someone else's sexual desires.
Yeah, okay. So I think I got it about right.
The thing that gets me here, or I guess like the thing that I don't understand at least is like, I feel like RGR's definition for sex act includes kissing. Like, maybe on reevaluation this won't turn out to be the case, but I think it does, because I remember thinking while watching this, like listening to RGR's arguments, thinking if this was the case, kissing in a park near children would be pedophilia. I guess if she believes that, I guess that's consistent, but that seems very wild to me. You know? I don't know.
So I think that this is so broad as to be useless, and I don't think that any legal system defines it this way. For example,
I would disagree.
Can I finish my sentence, please?
Yeah, go ahead, but I'm just saying, like, I disagree with that.
I just don't know why you have to interrupt me when I'm in the middle of talking.
Well, I'm just saying that I disagree with that.
Okay, well, in my state, I looked up the sex acts law, and they actually, so I live in North Carolina, and criminal law designates differences between sex acts, sexual contact, sexual activity, and sexual penetration. They define sex acts as the sexual contact of one or more sex organs, including but not limited to cunnilingus, fellatio, analingus, or anal intercourse, or the penetration of any object into the genital or anal opening of another person's body. Sexual contact is a focus on touching a person's, quote, intimate parts. Sexual penetration is, we can understand that. And sexual activity,
first I'm hearing of any of
listed
this.
there was masturbation.
Okay,
so we have a lot of different, it's a very varied, the legal system is a very varied way of approaching these kinds of discussions. So
I actually, there's some interesting context because I've actually taken, so as you know, I'm a law student. I've actually taken criminal law. Are you familiar with the history of how we've gotten to like our modern common law rape standard?
I probably don't know the history as well as you do, being a law student, but I was actually in the middle of talking. I don't know, why you interrupted me. I was actually, you asked me a really direct question, and I was actually walking my way through it. I don't know why you keep doing this.
I mean, like, if you keep talking and you just keep going on and you...
I just listed a legal system sex acts and the way that it differentiates between it, because one of my points here is that this is a very nuanced conversation, and I think you lose some of the nuance that I think is really important to this conversation.
You're right. So we can go through that and we can talk about why those definitions are in fact problematic. Because the history of the evolution of the legal standard for what constitutes a sex act has actually been to broaden it more over time. Historically, rape was only the penetration of a vagina by a penis by a man of a woman, and using excessive force. But the reason why that's not the standard anymore, is because we realize that actually sex acts are a lot more than just physical penetration.
That's true.
Yeah, that is true. So I would not say that the law is a good heuristic to be able to rely on in this conversation.
That is a really bad argument from RGR, in my opinion. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but like that. Okay, so a couple of things. First of all, Doe laid out a couple of categories of legal stuff pertaining to sex, not just like penetrative sex acts. And additionally, like, this would be called conspiratorial in other contexts, don't you think? Like, oh, well, in the past, the law was bad, and we've changed it since, so we shouldn't use the law. Like, I don't think Doe's argument here was the law is the only word. I don't think Doe would ever make an argument like that. I think Doe's argument was that, like, look, if we even look at the legal precedent, which we can't expect to be super radical and progressive because it's in law, like it was written into law, but like fucking old people, we see that there's a great deal of ambiguity, distinction, and variety when it comes to different types of sex acts. Because I think Doe's concern is that RGR is flattening down everything you can do with a person into sex act. You know, because you know, it's like, oh, you want to go barefoot next to a person with a foot fetish around children, so you want to do a sex act around children. Well, like, if you flatten literally everything down into sex act, then like I've made out with people next to like I've kissed people in parks, you know? I mean, that's absolutely, I mean, listen, I don't know if it's only me, guys, but when I'm making out with a cute lady, I get a bit of a chub from it sometimes. I mean, it's nice, you know? Like, I don't go walking around in sweatpants, the fat fucking boner, but you know, it's absolutely at least you know, sexually you know, adjacent. Heterosexual kissing is pedophilia. Yeah, it's the first step to breeding. Um I have kissed people in public, and I am sorry. But anyway, so so I think Doe's objective here was simply to indicate that even a relatively conservative institution like U.S. law acknowledges there are different types of sex acts, whereas RGR, who normally defers to the law, at least somewhat, is boiling everything down into one single type and then like repeating it over and over. Doe, that was your intention, right? Your goal here wasn't to defer to the law. It was only to point out that even the law acknowledges different types of sex acts. Okay, Doe said, okay, yeah, just making sure I have your intentions correctly. I didn't think you, who are significantly more anarchist than me, would be making like a prescriptive assessment from. Okay, let's go.
Since we are able to recognize that sex and sex acts are a lot more than just basic forms of penetration.
I agree. I actually listed things that weren't penetration. I listed multiple things that weren't penetration.
And I would say that we still need a broader understanding of sex acts, because you end up excluding a lot of very harmful situations that run into the problem of violating one's consent.
That is where I was going to move the conversation, as a question of consent. And because you seem to, again, correct me if I'm wrong, have a view that we consent to seeing things in public, that's like a thing that happens.
No, wait, hold on. My exact view in respect to consent, especially as it concerns sex, is that if someone is going to involve you in a sex act or do something around you as a sex act, then you need to acquire their consent to do that. If you do not, then you violate their consent. You categorically cause them harm. Children cannot consent.
Wait, how do you cause them harm?
Because you're violating a fundamental deontological rule.
Okay, a couple of things right here. First of all, hearing anyone cite Kant in any context immediately sends off. I'll save my biases against moral realists for later. So the direction we're headed in right now is one, I think, where Doe is wary, because RGR's definition of sex act is essentially all-encompassing. So Doe is acting, how does it harm? Because Doe is trying to hear this out from RGR's definition, which would include things like making out in public. You know, like, how does it harm people if you see people making out, or if you see a person with a foot fetish next to a person with bare feet? Yeah, I didn't even know how you'd know that, really. Like, but here.
That doesn't mean anything. Can you explain that?
Yeah, there are certain things which, if you do, they are inherently morally wrong. Murder is an example. If you do it, is inherently morally wrong.
Why?
Violating someone's consent is inherently morally wrong. The reason why goes back to the Kantian categorical imperative. If we were to do certain things in society, then that would mean that we end up leading to a contradiction, whereas we end up not being able to have the thing that we wanted to begin with. If you go around violating other people's consent, then we end up justifying a world where anyone can violate anyone's consent. We no longer have consent.
I recognize I'm not that philosophically educated, but this seems insane to me. You realize we violate people's consent by taxing them, right? Like, that doesn't mean we can't have consent in other ways. This seems like a misreading of the categorical imperative. I don't think the categorical imperative means, like, anytime you do anything, then all other things of that thing can happen. Like, that, yeah, like, depending on how broad your categories are, you could reduce that down to, like, enabling anything from anything, because everything is connected to everything else in some arbitrary, guys, please correct me if I'm wrong. Would RGR's logic here not indicate that taxing people means you can rape them? This is like an ANCAP argument. Like, well, if you violate people's consent by taxing them, then what's to happen to stop them from not doing the not rape? Like, I don't see it. Maybe there's some, like, super crazy Kantian shit here that I'm just too dumb to get, but I just don't see it.
And I really care about consent. So I say we do everything we can to respect consent, especially concerning sex.
I think we should absolutely respect consent too. I think it's really important. I just don't think that when it comes to the public, that there is a very good argument for seeing something, being involved in it. Now we're not even in the.
No, hold on, no, it's not the seeing the thing. All right, that's not the issue. The issue is not seeing the. Well, I mean, like it's sort of seeing the thing.
It is. You say that it's about seeing that you haven't gotten the consent of others to see it, to be around you while you do it.
Vaush, so leather in public is fine? Yeah. Well, yeah. If you're in, okay, by leather, do you mean like you're wearing like assless chaps made of leather with like a cock strap and like 16 chains that like pull your nipples out and like, I mean, I'm not like anti-leather. I mean, I'm anti-wearing leather because not for vegan reasons, because it's uncomfortable. But like my issues with that would have more to do with like adhering to broader social etiquette than anything, you know? Like, I don't think people should walk around naked or whatever. Maybe if we were all like, maybe in like a billion years, we'll all be like floating space people and we'll all be naked because our brains will project clothes. Like, I don't know, but in the context of the society in which we live right now, like, I think people should wear clothes. I don't want people's poopy buttholes on bus seats. I'm fine with that. But no, I'm not opposed to people wearing leather in public, even if people find that leather sexually attractive. Like, don't we see people with sexually arousing outfits in public literally all the time? Like, have you ever been to like downtown or like the area of town that has lots of nightclubs, like for 5 seconds? You know, like it doesn't take very long for you to look around for any length of time and just see people dressing sexy. I think that's fine. I don't think that's harming children, you know? And I don't think that's involving other people in a sex act, you know? But I guess we'll get to that more in the future because I know where this conversation goes.
Wait, hold on. No,
I thought that's what you just said. I'm sorry if it's not. I was just
we're focusing on consent, and the consent is either about the risk. It's either about being involved in the sex act or the risk of being involved.
With some wet
okay.
P-word is
so
genitalia.
What does being involved mean? Because it seems like
the sexual act. There's a lot of different sex acts, I would say. For example, we can imagine situations where people, like in the BDSM community, are engaging in a sexual act where both are getting off despite the fact that they may not be touching each other at all. Like, we can easily imagine this kind of conversation. Or we can imagine, like, if someone is watching porn, we can imagine that, like, oh, well, in that case, they're not touching another person. They're probably engaging in some kind of sex act. Or like phone sex, which has sex in the name. You're not talking to another person. We would call that a sex act.
Okay, so I want to say that Riley is completely correct here. Sex acts do not have to involve direct contact, obviously, okay? However, the line here gets blurred a little bit because I'm willing to bet that most of the people in chat right now have probably sexted somewhere in public. As in, you take your phone out and you respond with a flirty text or receive one, and you are in public as you do this, you know? Now, that would be, by Riley's definition, engaging in a sex act in public, you know? I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with that, you know? Again, like, I guess if I had issues with that, if you, like, pop a boner and then you, like, get up from the chair at the cafeteria and you, like, slip and hit somebody in the face with the boner and the impact makes you come and you, like, come and you're, like, writhing on the ground. And that, if that is to happen, I think the sexting is the least bad part of that, honestly. I think the sexting is almost trivial compared to the other things that happen. It happens to the best of us. I hate it when that happens. Be careful out there, folks.
Or you are talking to another person, but it's digital, right? Like, the whole point is that I want to make sure that we have a comprehensive definition of sex, because I think that any of these instances, you would agree with me, constitute sex, and if not, we end up getting into incredibly dangerous situations.
Any of the things that you just listed constitute sex?
I would say that they are sex acts, specifically. Like, for example, let's say...
So, again, I'm just inferring here, because I find it interesting to try, but I think that Doe is caught right now, because what Doe wanted to say and convey very quickly was, I acknowledge that they're sex acts, but I don't think all sex acts are equally harmful when exposed to other people. So I'm acknowledging that they're sex acts, but I don't want to imply through saying so that all of them are, like, the same as, like, jerking off in a train station. I'm guessing, like, Doe's silence was because that's what it was thinking, because that's what I would be thinking if I was where it was.
Here, we'll go through some hypotheticals. Let's say that you are interacting. Let's say that you have like a crush on or you know someone else who has like a crush on a coworker wherever it is that you work.
This hypothetical got out really quick. So I know somebody who has a crush on a coworker.
Okay. And let's say that in that instance, the person who has the crush takes a picture of the coworker without.
I'm sorry. Did you know directors sneak dirty jokes into kids' movies? Oh, that's an interesting point, isn't it? There are directors, even like in animated features, where they'll put like sexual innuendo in children's, like, is that like pedophilia? Like, yeah, like SpongeBob is full of sexual innuendo. I just, because in that case, that's actually much more direct, because in that case, you're literally seeding animation designed for children with explicitly, well, I guess implicitly, sexual content. And it will reach millions of people. Like that's like, oh my God, those guys are like the ultimate pedophiles. You know, they're like super pedophiles. Yeah, Pixar moms making Mrs. Incredible's ass that dumpy. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm really not trying to ridicule RGR here. I mean, we'll finish the conversation, and I guess I'll give my summary thoughts afterwards. But we've lots to do before then.
Their knowledge and ends up masturbating to it without their consent. Would you agree with me? That the
hypothetical got out really quick. So I know somebody who has a crush on a coworker.
Let's start from the beginning. Here.
Okay. And let's say that in that instance, the person who has the crush takes a picture of the coworker without their knowledge and ends up masturbating to it without their consent. Would you agree with me that this is something which is morally wrong?
I think that the taking depends on the kind of picture and the expectation of what?
Let's just say that it's just them in their work uniform.
I don't know if I can morally condemn someone for masturbating and thinking about somebody. Taking a picture without somebody's consent is like the strange part.
Okay, hold on. Now, all right, that's.
So I think I agree with Doe here. There are people in my chat before who have said that it's a violation of a person's consent to masturbate while thinking about them. I cannot get behind that. I'm sorry, that sounds fucking insane to me. Are you kidding me? Holy shit. Taking a photo of a person with the intention of jerking off to them is pretty weird, but like if there's like a company work photo with you and all your coworkers and you're like, oh my God, the way that cardigan hugs her quadruple W breasts because they're 3 wins with how fucking huge they are. Like, I mean, okay, I don't know.
That's we have to. All right, let's elaborate on that then. All right, then let's say that after that coworker masturbates to the person who they did not acquire the consent, be able to masturbate to that person, that they go and they tell that person that they masturbated to them. Would you reasonably expect that the person who was masturbated to without their knowledge would probably feel violated to some degree?
I don't have to consider it. It's happened to me. Yeah, it's a little weird.
Okay, cool. So why is it's not just weird. You would say that that's morally wrong.
We're gonna have a moral problem in this debate. I'm trying not to like make it the point because it doesn't matter. But
no, wait, hold on. It absolutely does. Violating someone's consent.
I'm sorry.
Is paramount. I want to make sure that we are protecting people.
I don't believe in morals the way that you do, so I'm trying to avoid that kind of conversation because we don't need to have a meta-ethical conversation in this discussion.
That's pretty smart.
I don't think that I could say that it's morally wrong to masturbate to somebody, but I think telling them is strange. I don't know if I would say it's morally wrong. It clearly is going to make them uncomfortable.
So, in my opinion here, the weird part is telling them. It's okay to do it. The weird part is telling them. There's nothing wrong. Like, there are tons of things that it's morally okay to do, but you shouldn't tell people you did them. Like, if you have a cum sock, that's your God-given right. But you shouldn't then tell a coworker about your cum sock. Well, I don't know if I'd say it's not your God-given right, but you just probably shouldn't do it. That's not good. Yeah, don't do that. Yeah. Yeah, if you have the piss jar, like, yeah. So in this case, like, yeah, to me, the issue would be the act of informing them. That would be really weird. Not because you masturbated while thinking of them, but because you're informing them of your sexual thoughts towards them, which is generally considered to be inappropriate, even if you haven't done anything. So, like, for example, even if you haven't jerked off to a photo of a person, walking up to them and saying, like, oh my God, you're really hot, I'd love to jerk off to you, like, that's still bad. In fact, it's equally as bad, I think, because the issue here isn't isn't the jerking off in private to the photo of them. It's the telling them. Like, we can isolate instances where telling them is clearly the issue, even if there's nothing wrong elsewise.
But
now, wait. So hold on. So if you masturbate to someone else and you don't get their consent, then it's fine as long as they don't find out.
I guess this is one of those situations where a person's perspective is so foreign to mine that it almost feels like they're presenting a hypothetical to take their own point down, but yeah. I mean, no, I agree, President Sunday. Yeah, I'll talk more at length when this is done.
Yeah, I don't. I would say that there are ways that it can be wrong.
What are the ways?
I think that sexual desire towards children.
Hold on, wait, pause. No, we're talking about the nature of what is a sex act. Do not pivot away from this. Why
I wasn't
would it be
trying
wrong?
to pivot away. I was trying to tell you an example of
it's
where I
not
thought it would be wrong.
pivoting.
Okay, so the example would be wrong if it would
That
be
was a
children?
direct
Yeah, I think that there's something inherently
response.
predatory about.
Right. So what if we're talking about an adult?
Yeah, that's what I was working to. I don't think that I can say that it's wrong to think about somebody and masturbate to them.
I think that Doe's poise here has been really good, by the way. The loftier than thou, like, calm response shit for however long it lasts, because I know it doesn't last forever, but I think the poise has been pretty good, you know. In my opinion, at least. I don't have an issue. There are people in chat who are going like RGR is being Destiny, whatever. I feel like the issue is not whatever's the issue with Destiny is that he's been possessed by the ghost of some kind of goblin, and it's leading him to poor decision making. I don't think that's the case with RGR. I think that RGR is just I'm trying to think. It feels like I wonder if RGR has a blind spot on this particular issue. Maybe I should save these thoughts for the end. I don't know. Hold on.
Even if you don't. All right. So why do you think that if they ended up going to tell, if you masturbate to someone, that if you go and you tell that person you masturbated to them, why do you think that they might be a little put off?
Because you've made them into an object a little bit in your mind. Even if you consider them as a full subject, it's objectification.
Hold on. No, the average person. No, the average person. Oh, hold on. Yeah, and that's not necessarily the case.
Sure.
Right? That's not necessarily the case. It could be the case where no, you actually like totally no. You just like you're really infatuated with them. You see them totally as a person, but you masturbate to them without their consent.
Sure, I think that there's still a level of objectification that can occur there. It doesn't have to, but yeah.
So,
but it can make you feel.
Do you think that's the only reason
like an object when you're told?
If they're told that they were masturbated to without acquiring their consent.
Can you ask that question again? I was trying to talk. I didn't know that you're talking. What'd you say?
All right. Do you think that is the only reason why someone who learns that they were masturbated to without their consent would be off-put at learning that new knowledge?
Do I think that they would be off-put? Is that what you just asked?
I'm asking you, do you think that the reason that you gave is the only reason why?
No, I already said that. I think that the reasons can be multitudinous. Like
what?
Becoming a sexualized object in the mind of somebody else is.
What do you think people masturbated to before, like, pornography was a thing or whatever? Like, back in the year 1400 when there were, like, French farmhands, you know, like, they didn't have porn stars, right? So they would have, like, imagination. Yeah, but they're probably imagining people they know, right? Like, they're imagining the milk maiden with her large boobs. Like, I don't know. It's just, yeah. If there are no porn stars through whom the production of their material is a kind of implied acknowledgement that you're going to jerk off to it, and people masturbate before they typically find, like, sexual partners, at least I certainly did. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm kind of making an appeal to nature right now, which is a bit fallacious. It's just, yeah, I don't know. I don't think jerking off to a person before asking them is bad. Like, imagine asking them. Oh, that's a tactic, you know? You could just normalize asking your coworkers before jerking off. I don't think RGR would want that either.
Is it so? I know I did.
To say something else.
I don't know.
Wait,
the reasons
excuse me?
Is it so? I know the reasons can be multitudinous. Like
what?
Becoming a sexualized object in the mind of somebody else is itself. I know I did.
To say something else.
horrible form from RGR. I don't think Doe has done anything to deserve this treatment in the context of this conversation.
I don't know the reasons that everyone might come away with feeling a negative feeling from a particular event. Lots of things
I'm
can
going
lead
to
up
give
to
you
that.
the answer.
Now,
The answer is violating their consent.
but you
That
didn't
is the
violate their
reason why.
consent.
You did violate their consent. Yes, you did. If
So-
this person is hypothetical, masturbated someone else, and did not acquire their consent to do so, you violated their
Yeah,
consent.
I'll say, Vermin, don't worry.
How did you violate their consent?
Because you were able to use an aspect of them to get yourself off sexually without their permission.
You used your mind to get yourself off.
You used that person, the image of that person.
Yeah.
Hold on, wait, all right. I need to ask you another question. No, hold on. Is the problem like if someone does not know that you use them to get off sexually, then it's fine?
Yeah, okay, so I think sometime soon we're going to get the more trigger warning inducing shit for you guys. Like detailed graphic description of sexual bad. Again, I'm just warning you so you don't bitch at me, okay? I don't know if it's in 2 minutes or 20, but whatever.
Well, it depends on how you use them.
Why does it depend?
Well, because there are some ways where you can physically use somebody, and there are some ways in which it remains entirely in your mind. I don't think desire itself requires somebody else's consent.
Why does the physicality matter? There are easily sex acts that we can imagine, which are not strictly physical.
Can you name one for me?
Like masturbating to someone.
But you didn't do an action to them.
Yeah, but you're using them. You are
using your
their
mind. In your mind, you're imagining them. If you have the picture, like I said, the picture seems to be like the weird part of that, but like.
All right, hold on. I'm going to give you another example, and I'm going to ask you to distinguish it. All right, because I'm trying to get exactly like what your morals are here. If you have someone, let's say that you have a person who goes out into public, all right, and they have a humiliation fetish.
Yeah.
Okay. And they
right.
go out in front of anyone.
this.
It could be children, but just anyone who has not provided consent. And they, I don't know, let's say that they like defecate themselves. All right. And
I
they
had
end
a scab fetish too. Jesus.
I don't know why you're trying to get like ad-homs or whatever in.
Wait,
Anyway.
no, that wasn't it. That wasn't. I said I don't know why they have a scab fetish. I was joking. You gave them one fetish and then you added another. I just was being silly. I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to ad-hom you.
We're talking about someone with a humiliation fetish. All right. The point is that they go out into public. All right. And then around other people, they defecate themselves. Other people see them. And as a consequence of other people seeing them, they orgasm. Specifically because other people watch them. Would you say that this violates the consent of the other people watching them?
Okay, I just want to interject this wonderful hypothetical with my own opinion, which is that clearly the primary moral offense here is shitting your pants in public. That's clearly the main bad thing here. Okay, maybe this is just my degenerate bohemian perspective, but if I was like in a park and like 10 feet away from me or so. Okay, so they come from shitting themselves. We're truly in wild territory now, but I guess if I had to break it down into the two separate components and ask myself, would I rather be 10 feet away from a person shitting their pants or 10 feet away from a person like coming in their pants? I guess at this point, I'm just going by raw volume and assuming they've eaten anything in the past 24 hours, I'm going to say I'd rather them not. That's my opinion. Also, only shit stinks. Well, I guess both of them have a smell, but if I'm being guided by volume. Honest to God, just the pure like the pure horror of seeing a person. Now, I'm assuming, given the hypothetical, that other people around this person notice they're doing these things. Because otherwise, like, it's just invisible. Like, what? So we're talking about shitting and coming yourself hard enough that both of them are distinctly visible to the public, okay? So we're talking, like, ropes firing. I don't know if they have if you have a pussy, I don't know how hard you'd have to come to make that visible while wearing pants. But look, however they're doing it, okay? They dump a fat log. I mean, they just distend their pants. They're wearing stretchy fucking latex pants, and that shit just gets packed out, okay? And then they come. Well, she didn't say the orgasm had to be visible. She doesn't care if it's visible. Okay, well, the shitting is... Okay, wait. So the shitting is visible, but the coming doesn't have to be? No, I would absolutely rather be around a person coming in their pants than shitting in their pants if the coming doesn't have to be visible. For all I know, I've been around people coming in their pants, but how the fuck would I don't know. statistically, I don't know. What would I put that at? A coin flip? Maybe. Aren't there people with pussies who come from being on bus rides or something? Like the vibrations or whatever? Like, I don't fucking know. I've taken plenty of public transportation. I don't know. No, I've heard that happens. I don't. Okay, look, just Doe is considering.
No, I don't think so.
What? All right, hold on, wait, no, why? You need to justify that right now.
Because I don't think you consent to things you see in public.
So literally, if you are using the site of somebody else to be able to sexually satisfy yourself, you're totally fine with that.
I just don't think that you violated their consent. We can maybe talk about other parts of it.
Why do you not violate their consent?
Because you don't consent to things you see in public. I've said this like
this isn't we're not talking about just seeing something in public. We're talking about using someone else, specifically in this case their site, in order to get off.
I don't like the use of the term using. It feels deliberately vague. So right now the question is like, is it wrong if you have a humiliation fetish to nut in your pants because you've been humiliated in public? And I think in this case, my problem, because there are ways of doing that I would not like, my problem wouldn't be with the acts that are being described here, but rather with associated acts, mostly having to do with the violation of normative behavior or like etiquette, if that makes any sense. So imagine a scenario in which all of the elements are perfectly concealed. So imagine there's a person who gets off on nutting in public, and they have one of those like vibe bullets. You know what I mean? They're all the time they're in the hentai. You know, the little things that you like, you know what I mean, right? The little vibratey things. Yeah, okay. So like, if a person is clothed and they go to a public park and they have those and they nut because like, oh my god, I'm in a public park. Whoa. Like, I don't think there's anything morally wrong with that necessarily. I don't know if that's a violation of consent any more so than a person who nuts because of the bus vibrating. Like, the issue is, I feel like there are a lot of associated cases where it could be bad because you've made others uncomfortable, but that discomfort only exists in instances where they've been involved in some way, like, you know? So that would be, I guess that would be the issue for me. Does that make any sense? Now this is like a really like broad issue. So I feel like if somebody played the examples game with me where they were like, all right, well, here's 7,000 examples. Which of these are okay? My feelings would probably waver between them, even if like philosophically the same. Like, it'd be like, oh, well, that seems worse than that. But I recognize this is like a really emotionally charged subject. There are a lot of cultural biases we bring to the table with this kind of thing. I just think that like the like flat out the idea that like you're violating people's consent by engaging in a sex act with a person while in public can't be true. Because if that was the case, kissing in public would be violating their consent. Because keep in mind, Riley's definition of sex act includes everything that elicits sexual arousal. Not just coming, but like even making out. Like, I feel like it's possible to make out in public and specifically be like, oh, haha, it's in public, that's hot, without it being violating other people's consent. Does that make sense? That's my feeling, you know? Yeah, flirting too, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you violated their consent. You didn't do anything to them.
Oh my, no, all right, see, I don't know what your ethics are. I absolutely reject this. I 1 bajillion% reject this.
1
Okay.
If you
bajillion.
generalize this is an awful precedent to set.
Consent, I don't know why consent extends to what you see. What is
Because
that?
in this case, you are using somebody else to gratify yourself sexually in that moment. They're aware, all right? They are aware. Everyone is involved in this. There just happens to not be any physical contact.
Sure.
So you are absolutely, you're fine.
So wait, so RGR said they're aware. I'm confused about this. So Doe in my chat just said Riley isn't talking about them being aware, but here Riley is saying they is aware. So to me, awareness does make a difference, you know? Like there would be a pretty big difference between like a wearing a bullet vibe in public and like falling over and coming and spraying squirt everywhere. I'm sorry. This is a bad this is a bad topic. Yeah. I said the orgasm doesn't have to be visible in her examples. Oh, okay. So like the arousal. Yeah, again, like there's so much variance here. Like for example, I'm pretty sure that like it's not hard to find examples of people being visibly aroused in public. You don't even have to look for boners. Just look at people's faces. Their faces are flushed when they're turned on. If you go to like the area of the town that has the nightclubs and you look at people like making out and they pull away flushed, that's evidence of arousal right there. The act was committed publicly. You're aware of the arousal. They did it in public. So it would be difficult for me to say that that's like a violation of the consent of the people around them. But I guess if they were like fucking, then I mean, well, that the issue then would be I think it's different. I think boiling everything down. Oh, hey Riley, wait, hold on. Hey Vaush, can I come on to chat? Wait, something else was said. Where was it? I feel like you're not representing my positions right. Well, I can't fairly bring you on when we're in the middle of watching this. But if I brought you on, I would also have to bring Doe on. So I'll consider it. But if Doe can't come on, then it's a flat no because I'm trying to come off impartial. Well, I'm obviously not impartial, but I'm trying to weigh my. What's your asking price? Don't give me money. We're not here. Not doing that here. Starting his career as a debate mod. I've modded debates. Anyway, let's continue because we at least have to finish this, and we're at least, by the way, like 30 minutes from finishing this with how often I pause. Okay, so
This person, the person that we're talking about, literally uses other people for sex without their consent. You're fine with that.
They use the vision of other people. Use it because you keep saying like using the people. It's a weird.
They are. They have a humiliation fetish. They can only get off from the vision, like from being humiliated in front of other people.
Sure.
So you're fine with that.
I just don't think it's violating other people's consent. I think we could talk about other.
Well, hold on. So what if those other people are children? Are you still fine with it?
If you do it intentionally around children, I think that the intentionality there is pretty weird, pretty fucked
Why?
up.
All right, why? You need to justify. No, don't just say, "Oh, it's pretty weird. It's pretty fucked up." Tell me why it's bad.
Yeah, you asked me. I will. I think that it's fucked up because you're that desiring children sexually, I think, is inherently predatory.
With some wet ass pee.
So what Doe is saying here, I think, makes perfect sense to me. Like, I have made out in public. If I make out and I'm next to a kid, I don't think that's sussy. However, if you're like, okay, let's make out. All right, let's go find the largest group of children we can find. That would be a bit sussy. But the making out there wouldn't be the sussy part. The making out there would be the intentionality of adding children to the retinue of people who are, bearing witness to your making out, right? Like, does that make sense? The sussy thing there isn't the like, because, if you're just around, like if you just make out and there are kids nearby, like, it's utilitarian. Do you care about intentionality? Well, yeah, because in this case, we'd be talking about like the social norms that would come about from the kinds of behaviors you specifically seek. The intentions here are baked into the sort of norms that are being standardized, in my opinion. Oh, wait, hold on. Doe says, oh, I won't come on, just to be clear. After the words she said to me, I'll never speak to her again. I don't care if you pull her on without me, Vaush. You don't have to feel like you're playing favorites, but this video clearly shows why I won't speak to her again. All right, well, if Doe has permission. Okay, we'll finish this, and then RGR are free to come on. Permission's given. True, President Sunday. Wait, Vaush, don't you think it's inappropriate to make out in front of a kid? I feel like it's kind of a weird thing to do. So saying, like, make out in front of a kid makes it sound like you find a kid and, like, go to make out in front of them. But if you're just at if you're at an airport, like, have you ever seen, like, reunited couples at airports? Like, they haven't seen each other in 6 months, then they, like, jump, like, the girl will, like, jump and the guy will, like, catch her, and they'll, like, make out. Like, I mean, there are definitely kids around there. There are always kids in airports. But, like, I don't... I've never seen anyone go, like, hey, there are children here. Well, I guess some people do that, but it's usually, like, 65-year-old, like, Karen types, you know? Like, the... I mean, I don't know. It's not something that I guess I'm concerned with as a concept. All right.
P-word is...
But why is that not fun? Oh, wait. What if they're not, like, trying to do it around children? What if it just happens to be a child?
Yeah, if there's not intentionality, I would probably say that they, like, that I don't think that they should if they notice that kids are around, but, like, if the intentionality is not there, I wouldn't say that it's, like, immoral or predatory.
Okay, you know, if you're not, like, yeah.
So we need to go through this. So we're saying, you are just committing to this position that if you have someone with a humiliation fetish, they go out in public, they defecate themselves in front of children. It's not like they were trying to, like, be in front. They just happened to be there. The children just happened to be there. You know, it could have been any person, but the children just happened to be there. And then, as a consequence of the children seeing that person defecate, and because, like, but for that sight, then that person orgasms, and you're fine with that.
Can you see, like, the last, like, sentence, the last little bit?
Yeah. So, person, humiliation fetish, goes out in public.
Again, like, my issue here is just, I think shitting in public is bad. I feel like this example might be tainted by the... Like, this could just be my biases, but I feel like if the humiliation fetish was, like, being scolded in public, like you have, like, the mommy dommy, and then, like, the meek twink BF, and the BF is like, oh my god, I just dropped my keys in the grass, and like, I guess there's, like, a kid, like, on a bench nearby, and the mommy dommy is like, oh my god, you stupid fucking retard. And then the guy comes, like, even if the kids heard the stupid fucking retard part, like, I guess... I think my issue here just might be with the pants shitting. I think that might be my... I think that might be my issue, you know? I'm sorry. It's a silly convo. I think we're still, like, T-minus, like, 2 minutes from it getting very not silly. So just keep that in mind, guys.
The only people around are children. They aren't necessarily looking to find children.
Wait, the only people around are children?
Yeah, the only people. Or we can say there's, like, I don't know, there can be, like, a combination. It's, like, mostly children.
The ratio
like I said, I think if there
children,
are children around, you should probably be careful about something like that, where you are actively getting off. But
why? No. So I'm going to finish. All right, so then I'm going to finish the hypothetical and we're going to explore. All right? Then actually, you know what? Now we will just say that, let's just say it just happens to be that there's only children around. Maybe they go to a playground. It just happens to be the nearest place by them. All right? They live right next to a playground. It's not like they actually, like, really, you know, want to get off in front. It's just like the kid just happened to be there and they're the only people there. So if this person goes out and they're wearing their diaper or whatever and they defecate themselves and the only people around are children, and as a consequence of the children seeing them defecate, then they orgasm. You are fine with that?
No, I've already said that if there's children around, that you probably shouldn't do it.
No, the reason that you said it was bad if children are around is because you specifically are interested in using the children. This is not the case here.
I've said multiple things. That's not the only thing that I've said.
Then what are the other reasons why it's bad to do it around children?
I think that getting off from the gaze of children is what would be the harm there. That their gaze is the problem, because the humiliation is that children are seeing you.
Wait, hold on. Wait, what harm are you talking about? What exactly is the
question? What harm are you talking about?
I'm talking about violating someone's categorical right to consent.
Okay. I feel like, again, I have a general disdain for moral realism here, but I don't know if it's fair for RGR to not invoke harm, like, why harm? Well, the harm is against the categorical imperative. Like, okay. I mean, I guess, but that isn't the same. I don't know anything about Kant. All of you are virgins and nerds. Seriously, philosophy, fucking.
Can you explain to me in what way you have a consent? You have the ability to consent to things you see in public.
You keep saying, no, hold on, stop. You keep trying to bring it back to seeing.
Well, because it is seeing.
No, this is using someone else. The seeing just happens to be the way that they're using it.
Well, okay, wait. So RGR is doubling down on her use of the term using, which I think is less accurate and less descriptive than seeing, because using can mean a bunch of things, but seeing is specifically the relation that we're referring to. But RGR is insisting on using this loaded terminology. This comes off as borderline bad faith to me. Like, if RGR just said using because that was, her prerogative, but then accepted Doe's use of the term seeing, which is accurate, then that would be okay. One thing, I guess, at least. But the insistence on using the loaded term is weird to me.
Multiple cases.
We're talking specifically
I know
about
that we're talking
using
specifically.
someone else for sex. That is what we're talking about. We're talking about using someone else for sex. This is just one way where you can use someone for sex in a way where it's clearly sex, even though they're not physically in contact.
I would be careful about saying it's sex itself.
It's a sex act.
Oh, we're getting there.
And also, wait, hold on. Let's be clear. There are ways to be able to have sex where...
Vaush, I don't think you're understanding the argument. Do you believe that's the case? I feel like I'm understanding the argument okay. But I guess RGR will let me know why she feels I do not when we're done here.
You're not physically in contact. Like, this is a sex act. If you want to try and parse the difference between what's a sex act...
I don't agree with your definition of sex acts. We might have to back up to there if you want to move this conversation forward in a useful direction.
Hold on. The reason why we're talking about this is because I'm justifying my definition of a sex act. This is what I'm doing right now.
You're asking me a bunch of questions. You haven't justified yourself. You just want to push me into somewhere.
No, because your outcome, your definition of sex would mean that this is not a sex act and there's no violation.
I haven't even given a definition of sex.
Wait, hold on. You gave several definitions from a legal...
I listed the fact that there are many ways that different legal systems, and I picked mine alone because there were, not because, but because I live here, but in mine alone, there were multiple different ways that they defined sex. I was just pointing out that it's a very complex problem and that I didn't think that your flattening of the complexity was very useful.
And I would say it is useful because it gives us clear answers for how to be able to deal with these kinds of situations.
Well...
Yeah, I really disagree with that. So it sounds to me like RGR is defending like a lack of nuance as a concept. Like, no, we actually gain more utility. Well, she wouldn't say utility because, but like by being reductive and grouping things together in ways that reduce nuance, we're improving the conversation. By using the term using instead of seeing, we're improving the conversation. I disagree. And this is not very lawyer-brained, in my opinion. We should be specific with our language.
Sure, you want to condemn these people, but like I don't think that just wanting that itself it means it's better.
Wait, no, I think that, no, this is the whole point of being able to show bad outcomes of different systems. All right? Right now, I'm showing you the benefit of mine, because I would say that being able to use a definition of sex act, which focuses primarily on intent, is able to give us clear answers for these kinds of questions, when otherwise, if we want to go off of one that requires, for example, physical contact, that you cannot be able to resolve.
So I think that even if we can say that which I don't agree, but even if we wanted to say that like your definition makes it work in this example, it actually fucks up a bunch of other examples that I think are really important.
Like what?
Well, because your definition of sex acts is about the intent, and especially like primary intent, I think is how you said it maybe.
I think we're getting there.
To elicit sexual desire in some way, whether for yourself or someone else, right?
That's about right.
Well, I personally, and maybe I'm a little different from everybody. That's okay. But personally, I like to feel sexy. I like to feel sexy even in public.
Not quite yet.
Getting off in public, but I like to. I'm sorry, you said something?
We're not talking about feeling sexy.
Wait, what? Oh, can I actually like fully explore what I'm saying? Sure. Like I know that you're not talking about being sexy or feeling sexy, whatever. But what I'm talking about is I choose the things that I wear and how I present myself with the intent for my own sexual desire to express myself sexually and to feel it sexually.
Wait, no, hold on. We're not talking about like the intent. I'm trying to figure out, wait, hold on. So are you saying that you dress the way that you do to like get off in public?
You keep going back to getting off. No.
We're talking about feeling to sexual desires.
Yeah. Have you never felt something sexual without it being coming?
Wait, no. Or hold on, I'm gonna answer that question because this is ridiculous.
I'm sorry.
The way that people arrive at like orgasm is by appealing to their sexual desires. That's what you do. All right,
just
and
being
they're
appealing doesn't usually do it.
Be able to dress and like dress attractively for reasons other than trying to appeal to sexual desires or interests. Like, this is like the woke version of she was asking for it.
I don't.
That's pretty indefensible. The idea that the idea that acknowledging that people sometimes dress to elicit sexual desire is tantamount to rape apologia is just completely indefensible to me. Unless there was like a mishearing of some kind. Yeah, like there's no relationship. Can you replay? Yeah, sure.
I think it is.
Like orgasm is. Wait, no. Or hold on, I'm gonna answer that question because this is ridiculous.
I'm sorry.
The way that people arrive at like orgasm is by appealing to their sexual desires. That's what you do. All right,
just
and
being appealing doesn't usually do it.
Be able to dress and like dress attractively for reasons other than trying to appeal to sexual desires or interests. Like, this is like the woke version of she was asking for it.
I don't think it is.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm reading anymore. Yeah, I don't know if that was better the second time. Yeah, so to bring some clarity here, the she was asking for it argument is the idea that because a person dresses attractively, they're inviting the sexual touch of others, which is obviously not true. But Doe's argument is that people will dress to elicit the sexual interest of others, which I think is absolutely true. I think we do it all the time. People, yeah, like that's one of the big things people take into consideration when dressing, you know, and the sexual feelings themselves, not just for others. Yeah, sure. The nuance here. I mean, people have different experiences, I think, but yeah, you could feel that way. I'm trying to think if I can think of a good example myself, because men, well, not men necessarily, straight passing men like me, you know what I mean? People like me, like, what do I wear outside? I wear shorts and a t-shirt. Okay. But, you know, when I'm wearing, no, okay, I'll say this. Okay, I'll say this much. Okay. All right. How about this one? Okay. I recently bought a ring right over here, actually. I recently got a ring. I don't normally wear rings, but I thought it was nice. And while looking at myself with the ring, I thought, like, this looks like, at least while looking down at my hands, a picture-perfect representation of those photos I see where subs are cooming over big masculine dom hands. Like, large, like, you know, with the visible, like, bone structure and, like, the little bit of hair in the back and, like, the, you know, a ring or whatever to indicate some kind of perceived wealth or status. And I've seen coom posts like that all over the place. And I looked at my hands and thought, hey, I feel like that a little bit. I don't know. And then I thought of myself in that way for a bit. Not as like some crazy dumb whatever. Just like, you know, in relation to people's drive. Now that is, right there, that is undeniably a sexual interaction between my self-perception and the desire to appear sexually enticing to others. Now, none of this has anything to do with asking for rape, okay? I don't know how we got to that exactly. But you guys understand what I'm saying, right? You okay, yeah. Now, of course, I will confess that I wore that ring next to children. I actually got it after the Nashville Freer Future Fest, and it was a big arts fair, and there were children there, so just, yeah.
absolutely
think that someone can express themselves sexually without them inviting someone to touch them.
that's not appealing to sexual desires or interests. That is not the same.
I think it is. If I want men to look at me in a particular way, I can dress a particular way to show that, to cause that
True.
reaction.
Wait, no, what? So wait, hold on. Is this the? So you're specifically trying to dress in a particular way to get men, like in order to appeal to men's sexual desires or interests?
Really?
I actually I don't know if like RGR is a lesbian. I mean it's not really relevant here. I just don't like. Yeah, I think that's a fairly common thing. I mean even if RGR never in her life been interested. I mean yeah, right? I mean yeah, people do that pretty often even.
Anyone's, but yeah, I picked men. Yeah. Like I think that I can and have and probably will in the future try to dress to appeal to someone's sexual desire. I like feeling desired. It makes me feel good.
Okay, no, then I would absolutely disagree with that. I think that there are plenty of other reasons why women or anybody can be able to dress in a certain way aside from just like sexually appealing to someone else.
Okay. At no point did Doe say or even imply that that was the only reason that people would wear clothes. That it just did not say that at any point. Not even anything that sounded like it.
Right? Sure, I agree that you can do it for a lot of different reasons.
I'm trying to like get off men, or I'm trying to like appeal to the sexual desires of women. No, like I dress the way that I do because I just like the way that I feel. I'm not trying to like get off other people.
Well, you keep going back to get off. I dress partially sometimes because I like the way that it feels and looks, but other times I like to sort of sexualize it a little bit. I like to feel sexy. I like to have sexual desire from other people. It makes me feel good.
All right, wait, hold on. Then we're talking about something completely different than what you were talking about in the example. All right. Well, what you're talking about, because what you're talking about in that instance is not that is doing something where it is not the primary reason why you're dressing that way. Where you just said that it's a part of it in the hypothetical that you talked about in the tweet that we are talking about right now. You said some people like the if you go shoeless to a public event primarily because your partner likes feet, you're not involving them in a sex act. No, you're talking about doing something primarily.
Yeah, to appeal to a sexual act. Primarily dress. On some days, that's what I meant by sometimes, I primarily dress on some days for sexual desire, both of myself, of looking at myself and feeling like I am a sexual being, and for what other people give to me, the sexual desire.
Then I would say no. Then I would say that I would say that you're absolutely violating other people's consent. Then
I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't know about this one, guys. This is like hard trad. This is. I think this might be beyond trad. This is like how do we go farther than trad? What's further than TradCon? Do we go to like Hyperion, Ultra Christ, like Bethlehem, Macedonian nun? I'm just saying words from history. I don't. This is yeah. The only thing that I can think of that would be a defense for RGR here, and it wouldn't be a full defense, would be that when RGR hears dressing to elicit sexual desire, what she sees in her mind's eye is somebody wearing like a bunch of leather straps binding them into a turkey with an apple in their mouth, and they just walk by like pissing into a turbine engine that drives the little wheels on a cart that they're on. Like that's the only thing I can think of where actually wait, I just invented that right now. Hold on. That's pretty good actually. Don't kink shame. No. That's brilliantly inventive. That's the only thing that I can think. Fucking kink mobile. The only thing that I can think of is RGR is imagining that. But like, yeah, I don't know. Right now, unless I'm drastically, hold on. Unless I am just massively misunderstanding everything that I'm hearing. I just Googled casual club outfits. Here's number 1. Wait. Low image resolution. Okay, here we go. Clubbing outfits, okay? Like, when people dress this way, they do, at least sometimes, it to elicit sexual desire in people. And as I understand it, okay, everyone in chat is implicitly consenting to see this image. Thank you. I think that, like, what Riley is saying is literally, if you think it's acceptable to wear clothing like this outside where children might be, then you are defending, like, pedophilia. Like this. Like, I think, if I'm understanding correctly, like, this is the extension of RGR's argument, I think. But well, RGR claims that it's not, and I guess we'll arrive at that after we're done with the video, but... being very silly in chat, guys.
Understand how me wanting to feel good is and wanting to feel
You're talking about
like
feeling in a sexual way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a sex act. I would absolutely call that a sex act.
Well,
I would stand
how
by
was it a
that.
sex act? What did I do that was a sex act?
Kissing a sex
Because you are
act?
doing something primarily to appeal to sexual desires or interests.
Well, I don't think that that's true. I don't think that if I think there's a lot of other examples that we can give of things that are very related to sex that and sexuality that happen in public that do not cause harm. And I don't think you can claim that I'm causing a harm by wanting to be desired by other people and dressing for that desire. And I think that's the only way that we can claim that this is like a bad.
Are you getting there?
Yes, I would say that if you are doing something primarily, again, we're focusing on primarily here, in order to appeal to other people's sexual desires or interests without their consent, then I would say you are harming them by violating their consent.
So you think that flattening sex, like forcing somebody, breaking somebody's consent, you think that me wearing a dress with a low-cut top, look at my dress now, I could show off my boobs a little bit, and it would make other people feel a little bit good, but we wouldn't be getting off for anything.
You're being very particularly vague with when you say good. It's not just good generally. You're talking about good in a specifically sexual sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, no, I would absolutely hold by. I would absolutely hold by, especially like here, because right now you're talking about very abstract. Right now you're talking about an example that's very removed from what you said. What you said was that you're appealing to your partner's foot fetish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think. Well, I'm sorry. What's the difference there? I literally don't see it. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
All right, hold on.
Okay.
So the issue, I mean, we already went over it. So you're fine. You're completely fine if you go out with your partner and your partner has a foot fetish and you go out and know that, like, oh yeah, my partner has a foot fetish. And because they have a foot fetish, and primarily because they have a foot fetish, I'm going to dress barefoot and try to appeal to their foot fetish.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's and then on top of that, all right. So that's step one. Step two is you're fine with that happening in public.
Wait, weren't we already in public? Wait, was the first in? Were we questioning doing this in private? Like, I guess foot fetishes should be illegal no matter what, but...
Yeah.
And so step three, you're fine with that even happening around children.
Yeah, as long as there's not an intent for the children to be there, and as long as that you're not like including them, like, hey, come touch this, my partner's feet, or like, yeah, as long as you're not being like weird about it, yeah.
Why does that matter?
Because, well...
So there's nothing necessarily wrong with RGR asking this question, because you can do so to understand the reasons why Doe feels the way it does, but yeah, I don't know. I do hope that RGR knows immediately what the difference is and doesn't actually need clarification, and that this is just for rhetorical purposes.
Well, now you've included them in the act. Like, you're making them part of it.
What if they don't? What if you don't what if they don't touch it? What if they're just around it? Like they see the person getting off to the foot fetish or whatever.
You keep saying getting off.
All right, hold on, wait.
Categorically reject that.
I want you to correct me. Are you fine then if they get off to their foot fetish in public? Are you fine with this person in this situation orgasming in public as a consequence of their foot fetish?
As things stand right now, maybe not. But I'd like to move towards a society that's a little bit freer about sex. I think that having a more comprehensive view on sex is. Well, no.
So I
actually gave a really nuanced answer there. Did you miss it?
So you are. So the answer that you gave is that you don't think it's possible, but you would like to.
No, that's not the answer that I just gave.
Then I want you to give me the answer again, because my understanding of your answer was that, oh, well, Probably not right now, but I'd like to move towards a society where maybe people have more open understandings of sex. The implication there being that you would like to be able to have people do that in the future.
I would like for sex to be destigmatized in the future to a pretty significant degree, with a broader understanding.
You're not answering the question.
I am
You're not
answering your
I need you to
question.
answer. I need you to answer this question. This specific question. Are you fine? Are you fine if your partner gets off to their foot fetish in public and you're the person who intentionally causes it? Are you fine with that happening? Yes or no?
I feel like so much nuance is being left out. Like if a person fucking nuts quietly and some like I don't really care. But if they're like screaming, like fucking coming and like ropes are flying everywhere, like I feel like there's such a like the issue is the degree of visibility, of exposure, of stuff like that. Like that would be there's a huge range of potential outcomes here.
I think the truth is that you'd have to be a little more nuanced about how the partner's getting off.
This is a yes or no question. Stop. You need to give a yes or no to this question.
I didn't think I went on like Jesse Lee Peterson's show today. I actually like nuance and context in the answers that I give.
You can give all the nuance that you want after yes or no.
Can you not follow my answer? If you want to ask questions, it's okay. I can explain anything that I say.
No, because all right. So you asked me. All right. I'm going to back up. You asked me why. To go back to the original thesis. So
Amazing.
I said that this is an argument that either was intentionally being made to justify pedophilia or was negligently being made and ends up justifying pedophilia. So based on where the conversation is right now, I would absolutely stand by that because
I just want to say, by the way, that I don't think I have ever seen any of the degen like map or pedo types online or any of those 4chan shitters or any screen caps or any expose videos or anything on pedos making arguments comparable to what Doe is making right here. Doe is just making the argument that there are some types of sex acts that aren't necessarily wrong to commit in public. But pedos will make defense specifically for the idea of directly involving kids in sex acts, like directly, or that they should be involved. They're like shit like that. Like all Doe said here with regards to kids is like, hey, probably avoid them and like definitely don't seek them out, which seems to me like the exact opposite of what a pedo would say.
I don't think that you can give a clear answer to say that according to your worldview, yes, you would be fine with this.
Yes, I have nuanced answers to questions. I don't think that it's okay to do sex acts with children, and I don't think it's okay to include children in your sex acts.
Do you think that it's all right? Then hold on. Then do you think it's fine because you focus a lot on physical touch? Do you think it's fine if someone gets off to their
How can you say you don't like feet when you have a friend named Shu?
And the children are around and even see it, but do not touch your partner at all?
It depends on how the orgasm occurs.
All right, so tell me why it matters. All right, tell me in which ways then you would be fine with that happening. Tell me in what kind of scenario you would be fine with your partner getting off around children, and you would say that's a fine thing.
Well, getting off in public with the potential for children to be around, like I said, making it intent about children is very would make it, I think, morally wrong. But
all right, and we talked about that before.
I know I'm building a full nuanced answer. I really wish you'd let me finish.
You just keep not responding to me based on what we already talked about. I feel like you keep trying to avoid answering the questions, so I keep trying to pull you back so we stay on topic.
Well, it sounds like you're trying to get a clip because you don't actually want to like discuss the nuance.
It totally fucking does. As somebody who gets clipped all the time, that's the main thing that I feel that's happening right now. That the insistence on more like loaded language, the insistence on reducing nuance, avoiding specificity, and calling for direct yes-no answers to highly charged questions feels like it's a specific... Riley, whether or not that was your intent, that's absolutely what it comes off like to me. 100%. That's definitely what it feels like. I mean, the intent here, I guess, doesn't really matter. It's just like the pace of the conversation, but... Riley, I don't think Doe was bad faith to you at all.
Nuance of this.
No, I am discussing nuance. I think that
you're really not. You literally just said, give me a yes or no answer. No, I don't like your nuanced answer. Give me a yes or no answer. Are you serious?
No, hold on. Nuance is not the same as refusing to give a yes or a no. You can give all the nuance that you want and also give a clear yes or a no.
Sometimes it's not just a yes or a no. Sometimes you have to make a nuanced case for sometimes yes and sometimes no. There are some people who have like who have like premature ejaculations. They'll even do it like in public without touching or anything like that. They don't mean to. It's not like, but it still occurs. I think that people can orgasm in public in ways that aren't very like harmful. But I think that there are ways that are harmful.
Okay, so I want to give you another scenario based on what you've already said, and I want you to tell me if it is or if it is not harmful. Okay?
I think we've walked through enough of these examples. I don't really know what else you're trying to get out of this.
No, I'm trying to test
I feel like we really, really have. I mean, yeah, of course you're trying to test me. You've tested me like 5 times now, and I've been pretty consistent.
No, you have not been consistent. I can't even get a baseline level of what your views are.
I understand that I'm biased here because I have, my opinions. But I feel like Doe has been incredibly consistent. I feel like Doe's perspective has been like bullet straight like the entire time. Like I felt like I got it about 10 minutes in, and I mean, there's nothing wrong with extrapolating and fleshing it out, but that's the feeling that I've gotten.
Really?
You've not given a clear answer to any, like, almost any of the questions I've asked. So I just want to I'm trying to ask questions to figure out what your values are. So I'm going to give you another example based on what you have already said to see what your response is, so I can help figure out what your values are.
Okay, that sounds really cool. We haven't done this yet. I'd really like to.
Okay, so let's say that you have the person from the example that you tweeted about, your partner, foot fetish. You go out with your partner. You know that your partner has a foot fetish. You intentionally and primarily do not wear shoes in order to appeal to your partner's foot fetish. There are children around. You do not care that there are children around, but there are children around. Your partner, who also does not necessarily care if there are children around, ends up getting off, orgasming as a consequence of you specifically appealing to their foot fetish. Do you think that there is any harm incurred to the children, even though that was not necessarily intentionally a part of the situation? Yes or no?
From the way you've described that, no, I don't believe a harm was done to this.
Can you please explain why we aren't just using low-cut shirts as an example? Well, I think Doe kind of did earlier. I don't think Doe was specific with the type of clothing that it was referring to, but if we're talking about clothing that is meant to elicit sexual arousal, or that people can wear to elicit sexual arousal, then like, yeah, low-cut tops would easily meet that. But I mean, depending on what you're into, like even just wearing a suit, like people, women find suits really attractive. Yeah, there are many types of clothes, I think, that, Now, of course, the primary reason people wear suits isn't sexual arousal most of the time. But, like, what about, I mean, you can take a look at, like, 50 Shades of Grey, right? I mean, clearly there's a market for that type of thing. So, if a guy did go to, like, a gentleman's club, and he's wearing a suit, like, I think that's at least in part for the pussy. To get the pussy. Like James Bond. Like, why does James Bond wear a suit? You think it's practical for him to be doing fucking backflips in a suit? No. Clearly there's another reason, okay? It's so he can seduce the wife of the bad guy, okay? Clearly. For the pussy, Nobody gets pussy at a gentleman's club. Well, by gentleman's club, I don't mean the euphemism, like a stripper place, but slightly nicer. I mean, like, I don't know. Where you get the pussy. Look, just
children.
Okay. So now we're at the issue of the situation, specifically appealing to their foot fetish. Do you think that there is any harm incurred to the children, even though that was not necessarily intentionally a part of the situation? Yes or no?
From the way you've described that, no, I don't believe a harm was done to those children.
Okay. So now we're at the issue. Thank you. So this is why I would reject your framing of this. Because I would say that doing that violates categorically the consent of the children and therefore causes them harm. That is my issue with what you are. That's my issue with what you're proposing.
What consent did you violate?
Because you engage in sexual acts around children by engaging in incredibly risky behavior without getting their consent.
Risky?
That's not. You haven't described a harm.
Yes, I have. All right, let me give you an example of this.
Well, no, actually, let me give you an example of this.
Here we go.
I went through some pretty extreme child sexual assault. I was sold to other people for sex. There were people who looked at me and desired me sexually. And There's a very big difference from the guy who was looking at me and desiring me sexually and the guy who just paid to fuck my bleeding holes and then sticking his fingers down my throat so I'll puke for him so he can make me eat it before he shoots his load into my ass, okay? There's a very big difference between the desire of the first person and the actual act of the second person. These are fundamentally different. My consent wasn't broken when someone was looking at me, you know, with desire. That's not where that came from.
All right. I am sorry that happened to you. That is awful. That does not have to do with this conversation.
It absolutely does, because your definition of sex acts includes the man who was looking at me, wanting to buy me, but not doing it.
I think that we're about to be TOS, but let me be clear, all right? Everything that you just said does not have to do with the scenario that we just talked about.
It has to do with your definition of sex acts. Your definition of sex acts fundamentally fails. It includes people who wear crop tops. It includes people who wear high heels to make their ass look good. And it includes the man who looked at me, desiring me.
Did he get off to you?
No, not that one.
Was he trying to?
No, he was deciding which one of us he wanted to fuck.
Then I would say that that's not a sex act.
Why? He desired me sexually.
If he was not doing something,
he was desiring me. Isn't that the problem here?
Wait, so hold on. So actually, wait. So do you want this person? I'm trying to understand the issue here, and I can tell that this is a very we don't have to talk about this. This is a sensitive subject.
Yeah, it's why I was really, really upset when you called me a pedophile.
I didn't call you a pedophile.
Yeah, I know. You're going to keep maintaining that. We haven't gotten to that part of the discussion yet.
No, we actually have. Do you have any other examples of me calling you a pedophile?
When you say that someone is intentionally or negligently justifying pedophilia, what you're saying is they have made an argument that they think that sex acts with children are okay, whether they know it or not. Your audience calls me a pedophile without your pretty wording around it, because they heard your message. They heard the message that you were sending out. They heard it. They heard it loud and clear. They heard it every time you called all of those people. Yeah, no, they totally did. And they get it. They absolutely understood. Your audience picked it up. Did you not understand? Do you want to go see, you want me to go look at my replies and find how many people call me a pedophile without all your fun words around it?
So this is why I said what I said earlier about the semantic difference not being meaningful from Doe's perspective. It's because, like, you could have seen RGR's chat. There were people being like, you know, Doe pedo. So, like, obviously, you know, whatever semantic distinction Riley, you know, is concerned with maintaining doesn't, you know, seem to mean much practically. Hence the upsetness.
There are people calling it a pedo in your chat. Yes, people in your chat are literally saying that.
We're going to get back to having a productive conversation.
Right? Yeah, I think we can get back to having a productive conversation. I think the conversation is about whether or not that guy who was looking at me, ready to buy my holes. I want to know whether or not that was a sex act. Was it a sex act when he wanted to buy my holes?
To what pedophiles want, or you negligently did. That is what I argued. And that is what I maintain.
Yes, you argued that I have a belief that justifies having sex with children. I never claimed that. I have only said that it is okay to do things in public that deal with sexual desire.
You understand what negligence means?
Yes, unintentionally.
Okay.
So, but what you're saying is I have a belief whether or not I know it, that I did it whether or not I meant to. You're saying that I said it's okay to have sex with children whether or not I know it. That's what you said. You said that about me. You know that, right? Those are the words that you said about me.
Words in my mouth.
I didn't put words intentionally or negligently. Those are what those words mean.
No. Stop.
Anyone can see that that's what those words mean.
No.
And your audience heard the message. Your audience heard the message because they call me it.
All right? Yelling does not make you more right. All right?
You've been yelling.
You got to admire the audacity, considering how much RGR has been talking over Doe during this conversation.
Multiple times in this conversation. It was only when I brought up an intense, traumatic event of mine that I am now.
Or you say something, and you are not aware of its implications at the time that you do it.
Yeah. So you
But you
think
still do cause harm,
you think
right?
that
I'm going to unmute you.
Oh my God, you
You're
muted
going to
me.
stop saying
Oh my God,
this
you
is calling
muted
you a
me.
pedophile.
Oh my God.
Because it is not.
That's so embarrassing.
So the whole like, you've been talking to me, that was through a mute. The Doe didn't even know.
I can't
Right.
believe you muted me. That's incredibly embarrassing.
Because
Oh my God.
No, hold on. You were yelling and you were trying to put words in my mouth. All right? So I am justified to be able to do that. Keep saying that I said a thing when I didn't. We
You
looked at the
said-
clip. We looked
you
at the
said
clip.
that
Yes.
I intentionally or negligently justified pedophilia. That means that either I meant to say that it's okay to have sex with children, or I unintentionally hold the belief or made an argument that justifies, made an argument that would allude to the belief that having sex with children is okay.
Now, hold on. Stop. All right? It's not just... There is a possibility, because I can't read your mind. I don't know what's in your head. But the total scope of possibilities means that either you didn't know what you were saying when you said this, or conversely, that you didn't know.
Yeah.
And I stand by that, because if you...
So you're
did
saying
not
that I
know
made an argument without
from
knowing
the
it
start,
that says
as
it's
you
okay to have
admitted
sex
earlier,
with children.
You're fine. No, hold on. You are fine with people, you admitted, you're fine with people being able to get off in front of children, at least in some scenarios. You're fine with that.
Get off in public with the understanding that children might be there. But that actually wasn't why.
Hold on. There are a couple of things that I need to say. Hold on. A few very important, extremely important things. First of all, there are going to be DGG aligned people who give Doe a lot of shit for bringing up personal trauma as a way of emotionally weighing the argument, which that happens. Just remind them that while talking with me about whether social workers could be better at responding to mental health crises, Destiny brought up Reckful's suicide in a desperate attempt to salvage the stupid conversation that he was having with me. He did it over nothing, too, in a panel that he barged into to get my attention, in an effort to weigh things down. Yeah, so he's done it for far less, and it wasn't even like relevant, and it was in service of a stupid argument. Anyway, so just keep that in mind. Second of all, in my opinion, I feel like you know, I know that Doe's gonna get some shit for it, but I actually think Doe is the person here who is the second most like emotionally weighted in this conversation. Like, the impression I get from all of this, RGR is a hardcore, like, logical blind spot to this entire subject. And that, like, RGR, like, discussing it is, like, this is just my impression. Like, Riley, like, I wouldn't go here, but you're here and you'll come on to talk in a second. But, like, you're, or not in a second, whenever this is done, but, like, you're in here, like, continuously responding in what is undeniably a hostile environment. When you already know you're coming on, you keep typing in chat. It seems to me like when you feel like you're being misrepresented, you get hyper fixated, and you just tunnel and tunnel. And I saw you in Demon Mama's chat a bit ago as well. I know you ended up not talking, but I saw that you were upset and you were spam typing and blah blah. But like we're hole digging, I think, past a point. I mean, I'll let you on, but I'm just saying that. I mean, there's really no situation where you come out looking good here, but there is one where you come out looking less bad, and it's where you apologize to Doe and not expect a response, I think. I feel like that's the least, like, the least treacherous path, in my opinion. Like, I'll have you on either way. It's just the impression I've got, but yeah, I could be totally wrong.
Why you called me a pedophile? The reason you called me a pedophile.
I didn't call you a pedophile. You just admitted.
I just admitted that you said I intentionally...
that there are scenarios where you're fine with people getting off around children in public. I do not think it is a stretch to say that you either negligently or intentionally made arguments that would also be made by pedophiles.
No, none of my arguments were made by pedophiles.
You are not listening to me.
I am listening to you. I heard every word you said. Do you want me to repeat it back to you word for word?
Yes, please repeat back to me exactly what I said.
Right, maybe I can't do word for word, but she did say that your belief in its negligence. Oh, I read something and I lost it. Never mind. Don't worry about it.
Okay. So you did you agreed, just now, you've agreed multiple times actually, that you are fine with certain situations where someone engages in a sexual act, gets off publicly around children. You are fine.
You keep saying.
You are, no, stop. You agree that there are situations where you are fine with that happening.
I'm fine with people getting off in public sometimes, yes.
Even if it is around children?
As long as they're not including the children in it, yes.
Okay. So
I still don't know if getting off means coming or... I sound like I'm listening to somebody who can only say, like, thing because they don't want to say penis because it's not Christian. I don't know.
So, I don't think that my comment was out of line at all.
Well, you're implying that I think it's okay to involve children in sex acts.
No, I didn't.
Oh, sounds like pedo apologia to me. Look at your chat. Look at them all doing it. They hear your message.
Well, right now what you're saying is incredibly yikesy.
Yikesy.
Because you are justifying being able to get off in front of children.
I'm justifying getting off in public. I'm not justifying getting off with the children as the intent.
Sometimes, and you are fine with scenarios where people get off in public and also in front of children.
Yes. As long as they're not including the children in the sex act.
Do we want to go? All right, we talked about the concept of risk earlier, or risky behavior. Can we go back to that? Because this would be when we're talking about...
No, because we still haven't gotten past your failure of a definition. You can't fundamentally tell me that my consent was broken when that man desired me. You can't tell me that. It does not cover that. That's not a sex act. The man looked at me. He wanted to purchase me. Are you bringing up
your personal experience?
Yes, because my personal experience is important here, because you clearly don't have the actual...
I know what you're doing.
Oh my God, you muted me again. She muted me again.
Your own personal experience as a drama victim to try and paint me in a bad light. I know what you are doing. All right?
Yeah.
Do not lie to me or the chat. I know what you're doing. I know you're poisoning the well.
Poisoning the well?
This does not matter when we're talking about the specific scenarios of the subject here. What you tweeted, which is what we are talking about. All right? So stop poisoning the well and keep on the discussion that you agreed to have. All right?
Am I unmuted? Am I unmuted?
You're unmuted.
I think it's really embarrassing that you keep muting. I haven't muted you once. I think that's really embarrassing. But more than that, yeah, because it is embarrassing. Because you have to like.
Embarrassing does not make it embarrassing. I hate to be the one to tell you.
Oh my God, you're right. Oh my God, I'm not the arbiter of ultimate embarrassment. Oh my God, I've just now come to this realization. My life's a lie. I'm going to be in shambles now.
So you asked earlier, what's the harm of getting off around children? And I will justify that to you right now.
No, I want you to justify your belief of desire being a sex act. I've given a very clear example in where desire wasn't a sex act, sexual desire.
Shu's contribution is, Doe just has normal degen opinions, not pedo degen opinions. That's a very important distinction. Thank you, Shu. In your wisdom, you have better summarized, you've better summarized this discourse than I ever could have in 1,000 years. Thank you.
Wasn't itself a sex act? I'd like you to actually defend your claim, because you haven't yet.
Because they have hold on, because we're talking about if you're doing something primarily appealing to sexual desires or interests.
Yes, the man who was looking at me to purchase me was in fact looking at me with pure intent sexual desire.
That is not primary. Hold on, no.
You don't think that's primarily about sexual desire? The guy who was about to buy my holes?
All right, so hold on. So you're literally engaging. You're trying to poison. I know what you're doing.
This isn't poisoning the well.
I'm going to respond to you. All right? I'm going to respond to you. But I know everyone can tell exactly what you're trying to do. Okay? So I'm going to respond to you.
Am I unmuted?
I'm unmuting you right now.
Oh, it's Riley's stream. It's fine for her to mute the pedo apologist. I still
I'm muting you when you're in. I'm muting. No, you know when I'm muting you. Don't lie.
I don't know. It doesn't show me.
All right.
How am I supposed to know? Wait, you just said that and you're going to just move on?
I feel insane, but what is poisoning the well? Poisoning the well it means that you're, like, seeding people's opinions in a discussion or, like, a debate in a way that isn't directly relevant to the content of the debate. So, like, you'd be poisoning the well if you're going to debate, like, econ with somebody, and then you open up and you're like, hey, just so you know, this guy beat his wife. My wife. Like, that would be poisoning the well. I don't think this really counts as poisoning the well because it's directly relevant to the topic at hand. At most you could argue that what Doe is doing is emotionally manipulative, which I would agree with. Not manipulative in like a weighted way, but like the tone and language delivery contributed to a particular affect in the conversation, but Doe was not the only one to do that, because RGR was using incredibly weighted language the entire discussion and insisting Doe join her in doing so, which is not the same strategy, but it's similar in the effect achieved, I think.
I would say
You're gonna say that? You're just gonna move on?
No. I'm responding to what you said.
Yeah, you said something that was a lie, and then you're not gonna acknowledge that it wasn't true, and now you're just trying to move on. I can't see when you need me.
I would respond to you. You're asking me to respond to an incredibly inflammatory hypothetical.
I'm asking you to respond to my personal experience, because it is the ultimate counter to your poor definition.
No, it's not the ultimate counter. I'm about to explain why. Also, can you please give a trigger warning? People in my chat are asking that you give a trigger warning before you talk about...
No, I don't think so. You didn't give me a trigger warning when you called me a pedophile.
I didn't call you a pedophile.
You did.
No, I didn't. We already went over it.
Yeah, I was right.
No.
Yeah.
No. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
I reject that. Do you have any other... All right, hold on. You said multiple times. Is there any other time aside from this? Because here, I would reject that I ever called you a pedophile. I reject that 100%. You said I called you a pedophile multiple times. Are there any other times where that possibly happened?
You deleted all your tweets. Don't you remember?
I never tweeted calling you a pedophile.
Okay.
So you're just calling me a liar then?
No, I said at the very beginning of this debate that neither of us can prove that claim because you hid all the evidence. So it's impossible.
I didn't hide all the evidence. I deleted it because you and your community were harassing me.
Sure. We were talking about things that you said publicly as a public figure. That is.
I never. Do you have any screen? Or do you have any screen cap? If I deleted a tweet, then I could have had it there.
Your girlfriend tweeted, and it seemed to be in line with things that you believed. Because I made the exact same argument as you about how desiring a foot fetish, desiring feet with a foot fetish is itself a sex act, and then she cited some legal stuff, and then she got put on bad legal takes. Oh man, that was so funny.
That's right. I believe RGR's girlfriend's comments in public got put on bad legal takes. I feel like I have a moral right to put that up here. Hold on. Now, of course, RGR is not RGR's girlfriend. They're not the same people, but oh, here it is? Oh, well, of course you all would have that ready. Oh, this was it specifically, the one we showed earlier? If you're deliberately sexually appealing to your partner, that is a sexual act. If you're doing it in public, that is a public sexual act. The public can't consent. Children are in the public. They can never consent. You retreated this, Riley. This is an explicit endorsement of the idea that dressing in sexually appealing ways is pedophilia, because it's like this is what the reduction of your terminology leads to. Dressing in a sexual way becomes a sex act in public, children are in the public, and they can't consent, so it becomes a sex act with non-consenting children. Like, you retweeted that. This is, and you understand this is legally indefensible, right? Wait, no, that's not what it's saying. Riley. Riley, I have a feeling that if I feel like I have almost verbatim repeated your positions to you, and every time in chat you're like, well, that's not what I mean. Well, with respect, you shouldn't be a lawyer then, because clearly there's a huge disconnect between what you're thinking and what you say. I mean, this seems like a job skill. I mean, like, you've done this like 20 times. Well, anyway, we're almost done with this, I think.
You don't have any actual evidence that we call you a pedophile once.
You did it multiple times, but
no, I didn't. You never have provided any evidence.
I can't. Like I already said, I can't prove that you tweeted those things.
That's kind of fucked to say, Vaush. I feel the sympathies of some of the people in chat are a little misplaced given the context here. It is also a valuable job skill.
It's fine. We can move on from it. I know that you did it. You deleted your tweet.
You specifically lied then. Why are you trying to prove something that you don't even know is true?
Well, I know that it happened because it happened to me. And beyond that, I don't need those tweets here because your video.
All right, wait. How is that any difference? Hold on, we need to go through that claim because there's a massive issue there. So you're saying that you're saying it's true that I called you a pedophile multiple times because it happened to you. That is your evidence, right?
No, I'm telling you that I can't provide.
Doe has said like 6 times that it can't provide evidence to this. That was said like right at the beginning.
Evidence. I said that at the very beginning of the discussion, and I can't do it now.
You're saying that it's true that I called you a pedophile multiple times because it happened to you and you know it to be true.
Well,
that's what you're providing.
To me. No, I know it happened. It happened to me.
I know
it didn't happen. there's no
I know it didn't
evidence
happen.
because you deleted all of it.
I
and
know
that's
it
okay.
didn't happen.
Okay, and like I said, neither of us can move forward on that. I've said that more than once. It's fine.
So you did lie about me.
I didn't lie. The same way
Do you
that
have
I-
any proof that you were telling the truth?
Yes, the video is the proof.
No, it's not.
If you say that someone is intentionally or unintentionally defending pedophilia, what you're saying is that they
I'm
either
literally saying you may have not
you
intentionally
said-
defended pedophilia.
I know that it's not all intentional. Every time I've said this, I've done both parts of it. You are either saying that I know that I am actively aware that I am presenting something
If I
that
say-
says. Can I
if
please
I
finish
say-
my sentence?
No, you're not responding to me. If
I am responding to you. I'm saying intentionally or unintentionally. One of them is that I knowingly am justifying having sex with children, and the other one is saying that I don't know that I'm saying that it's okay to have sex with children. Neither of those are what I've done. I think that is
what
okay
about
to.
that second one there?
Yes,
Where you don't
think that I am.
make that meaning.
You think that I am. I unknowingly support sex with children, even though I more than once said that sex with children is wrong.
I think that you said that in this clip. I think that is the plain reading of this. I was specifically talking about what you said here.
You're talking about the foot fetish example.
Yes, where you ended up conceding that you are fine with scenarios where someone gets off sexually to a foot fetish.
I never said
around
gets
children.
off. I've said gets off in this conversation, but I didn't say it in that initial one. But even if I did say get off.
Wait, hold on. You are saying that according to this clip and the beliefs that you elicited in this clip, that you are fine with scenarios where people get off to their foot fetish sexually in public around children.
In the clip, I said that it was okay to present your desires in public, to do things in public that elicit sexual desire. In this conversation, I've maintained that I don't think it breaks consent to orgasm in public as long as you don't involve the children around.
Okay, and now, because we've gotten to this point several times and you keep trying to pivot away, I want to explain why that is wrong. All right, we keep pivoting away. I want to explain why doing a sex act around children, even if you do not involve them, is still harmful.
When a kid walks in on their parents, did their parents involve them in a sex act?
No.
Why not?
No.
They kids saw them having sex.
Because you're not. No, because you're engaged. Because they were acting in private. They took reasonable steps to act in private. And so I'm going to mute you for a second. I'm going to explain why it is bad to do.
I've deafened myself and muted my microphone on her end because if she's going to keep muting me, I have no obligation to continue to sit there and listen to her. I think that's more than fair. She's muted me multiple times. This is the only time I've done it. I can't hear anything she's saying. I think she did. Yeah, so.
That's fair.
I think this is more than fair. I'll see how long it takes her to notice or care. What are you guys doing? I haven't read any of the chat.
They're not done
yet. What are you guys doing? You guys think I've been doing okay? I've been trying my hardest.
I think Doe's done well. I think that Doe it seems to have an affinity for debate that I think is pretty impressive. You know, certainly given the circumstances.
My hands are like sweaty. I got anxiety talking about my trauma. My adrenaline started pumping. I shouldn't have gotten as loud as I did.
Is this the person you were talking to in your thoughts on the Yes, the last time I think, maybe not the last time, but one of the last times that Doe was on my stream would have been way back during the Thought Slime stream. It was the one wisely encouraging me to not say transphobic shit. Oh, that was the first time you came on my stream, not the last. Okay, gotcha. Now, of course, yeah, I didn't listen, but, you know.
Oh,
But, well, you didn't listen to anything I said, but I just explained
sorry,
why.
you muted me. I only thought it fair.
Because you were not actually engaging with what I was saying. All right, I'm trying to
feel
explain.
like I've engaged with everything you've said.
No, stop. You didn't.
Okay.
You said that there is no harm from doing sex acts around children, and I have tried repeatedly, multiple times, to explain why it is harmful. I just explained that to my chat, and I tried to explain it to you, and you specifically avoided listening to me, which suggests to me that you are not actually engaging with me in good faith.
You muted me multiple times. That was the first time I muted you. I just find it really unfair that you keep muting me. Maybe unfair sounds a little whiny, but like I feel like I've treated you with pretty good faith here. I've answered every question directly. I've tried my hardest to be honest and good faith, and even
No.
answer questions that I know you are trying to make sound as intentionally bad as possible. I know
No,
that.
I'm
Yeah.
not.
No, you are, and then
No,
you mute me when
absolutely
no,
not.
absolutely. I think that's absolutely what you've done. You keep saying I'm poisoning the well by talking about my own personal literal experience that actually has to do with actual pedophilia. That's apparently not actually like important to you as someone who's like really worried about CSA victims, right? Oh man.
All right, no, clearly when you say that, or you know you are poisoning the well.
It's not poisoning the well.
I agree that what happened to you was horrible. I am sorry that it happened. You know.
I just don't think that's poisoning the well. The subject is directly related to the conversation. It's not like some tangential. Like if Doe was just like bringing up, like if Riley had really hated Jews, she doesn't. I'm not, but if she did, you know, and Doe kept like retreating to that, like when looking for a good like closer to an argument or like looking for a jump or something, I think that'd be poisoning the well. But in this case, it's directly relevant to what we're talking about, and I don't want to stretch the definition, but I really do think that RGR's insistence on weighted terminology like using would be closer to that definition, especially given her interest in specificity in other cases.
No, you are poisoning the well.
It's not poisoning the well. It's talking about my personal experiences. Poisoning the well would be like, Riley is such a dumb Christian, she'll never be able to understand what I'm saying. Like, no, like I'm not poisoning the well. I'm talking about an experience because I don't feel like you're adequately able to engage with the actual experiences of people who have gone through really horrible things.
The problems. And I'm telling you exactly the problems. And I also was going to explain, all right, so hold on. So if we want to go back to exactly the reason why that person in the scenario was not engaging in a sex act, I would say that it was not because they were primarily trying to pursue a sexual desire or interest at that time. That would be.
Oh, look at that person in your chat. The answer is yes, that Doe's a pedo if it thinks it's okay to orgasm in the presence of children. You know, that was actually like the norm, that like people would fuck in like common rooms.
Don't try to impugn. No,
it actually used to be the norm. I'm not impugning it. I'm just telling you, I just want you to hear like what your audience says. I'm reading it all. I know what your audience says. I just wish you would read what your audience says.
Actually engage with what I'm saying because I'm responding to you. I would say that the person in your scenario, for as inflammatory as you make it out to be, I would say that the distinguishing factor there is that they were not primarily.
And I was sold to other people, and you're calling me inflammatory?
Yes. I mean, right now, hold on. You keep saying that. You keep repeating this. You keep repeating the fact that you are.
Doe literally said it's fine to jerk in front of kids. That's not what I said. Hey, Chatter Todsworth. That's not what I said. Sorry, I just wanted to let that know. That's not what I said. Yeah.
Hold on. So to be clear, the example that you gave, I would distinguish and say that the reason why that does not apply is because that person, we can reasonably surmise, was not primarily engaging in a sexual act at that time.
They were looking at me to buy me.
And all right, and you are, and I know that you are trying to just be as overly inflammatory as possible.
This is not
and I would say that in that situation, the thing they were primarily focusing on was the buying. That's what my answer would be. And I know that you're just going to respond with, "Oh my God, Riley, you're so terrible."
I left.
The great irony in all this is that in a conversation where Riley was accusing Doe of enabling pedophilia, Riley said that it's not a sex act to look at children and consider which of them you want to buy as a prostitute. Which, yeah, I mean, to me, is one of those. But you know, hold on. I think Doe is half laughing. Hold on.
The guy who wanted to buy my holes. The main thing he was thinking about was the buying.
It's a mix. I cut off like 1 nanosecond before it. Yeah.
I left. To be really clear, I left. I don't want anyone to be confused. I ended that conversation. Okay, hold on. I need a quick second.
Well measured, from Doe, all circumstances considered. In my opinion. There we go, close that. There we go. I don't think this is laughing and more laughing from laughing from discomfort. I was just continuing it for a second. Can I come on now? Yeah, that seems like the natural progression of things. Hold on. Just I'm really not trying to come off as condescending here. It's just there's always a deeper hole, you know? Just Be careful with what you say. Oh, phrasing? Shit. A deeper hole to dig. Jesus Christ. No. Yeah, okay. Yeah, thank you. Yes, thank you. As always, for the live optics correction. Yeah, okay, thank you. No. Much appreciated. Yeah, thanks. Keep going for another hour. Shut up. End the stream now. All right. Wow. All right, hold on. Good evening.
Hey.
Good evening.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. So, the debate was between you and Doe. I don't want to rehash its entirety here, but you had thoughts to share, and Doe consented to your presence without it, so I'm happy to hear you out for a time. What do you have on your mind?
Yeah, no problem, and thank you for having me on. I guess I want to address some of the things because I don't feel. I guess like the main thing right now for me is that I feel like people are not listening to what I'm saying or engaging with what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel really hurt by the fact that I feel like people are not listening to me, despite the fact I am genuinely, regardless of whether or not you believe me, trying to the best of my ability to engage with you or the perspectives of people who disagree with me. So I want to go through like a couple points to begin with, and just like I know that you said I was hardcore logical tunneling. I know that that's something that you.
Well, I think you have lawyer brain, at least selectively, with certain degrees of specificity, but it didn't last very long in the conversation, I don't think.
Well, the reason I'm very particular with my wording, right? I try to be very particular. I try to think through my positions, and I try to think through the outcomes of my different positions. And so the reason why I stick to very particular wording is because it is important for the purposes of the fundamental issue in this conversation. So in this conversation, the thing that we started with was the question of, did I ever call Doe a pedophile? That was the bottom line question of the debate. All right?
Yes, though I don't think it is anymore, because I think most people would argue that at this point you've now done worse things than call it a pedophile. It sort of very directly. And that's just sort of like the initiating concern. Now.
Can we talk through some of that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So I want to begin with kind of the end of it and then build back, if that's fine, with the personal comments towards the end with Doe. So when Doe said that, and I was told that this was a possibility beforehand, I was reasonably suspicious that Doe would bring up their past experience as a trauma victim, right? And that is like everything that happened to them in respect to that is horrible and awful. And I do not disagree with that, right? The problem is whether or not it was relevant to the conversation that we were having. And I think that it caught me by surprise. So I think to an extent, like the answer I gave makes sense, but I reflected on it more with my chat. And the reason why it was not relevant, and this is why I would say it's more so poisoning the well, that it didn't actually have to do with the conversation, is because the thing that Doe was describing, like the person in that situation was not doing an action, right? They were standing and they were contemplating, but for me, I would not just say that a sex act is just thinking. And we can get into this if we want to, because this is something that I've and this is a big reason why I arrive at my position, right? But like when we try to conceive of what exactly a sex act is, I think that the best definition that we can arrive at is when someone is doing something with the specific intention of primarily appealing to a sexual desire or taste. I think that is the best definition, and that's what a lot of the debate was sort of about defending, right?
Right.
And
well, a couple of things.
And then you can talk. But so here, the person who they were describing was not. I would say they weren't doing an action, right? But the point being that like, so here, the main issue is that I just want to know what an alternative definition is to sexual act. That's not what I'm proposing. That doesn't otherwise lead to really bad outcomes.
I think Doe's whole point is that your insistence on reducing all sexual actions down to a single all-encompassing term is unhelpful. That's the reason why it brought that up to begin with. Your definition of sex act includes dressing for the club if you're looking to arouse people with your fat tits, and doesn't include leering at a child who you may or may not purchase for sexual acts. That seems to me like an extra. Well, that seems to me. Wait. Okay. That seems to me like a very unhelpful definition of sex acts. So maybe it would be better to consider multiple terms that we could fold different types of behavior into. Maybe the term sex act isn't really what we're looking for. Maybe we're talking about harm implicitly or explicitly, and sex act is something which sometimes but not always overlaps with that. Like, for example, the people dressing. You did say in that debate with Doe that you felt like dressing with the intent of arousing people in public was a violation of others' consent around children's consent.
That's not.
Is that not true?
No, I wouldn't make that argument. So, or rather, if I did, that's not what I intended to convey. Again, the thing I focus on is whether or not you're doing something primarily, emphasis on primarily, in order to appeal to a sexual desire or taste.
People do that with their clothing, don't they? There are absolutely people who like when you're going out to the club, there are people who dress. I mean, there are girls out there dressing in ways that have their only consideration is looking sexy and fitting within the boundaries of the law. And that's pretty much it. I would say that's primarily an effort to elicit sexual desire.
I disagree, though. I would say that people who do that dress for any number of other reasons aside from trying to elicit sexual desire. Like when I go out to, like when I dress up, I'm not dressing up because I'm trying to like appeal to someone's sexual desire. I usually pick what I wear because it makes me personally happy.
But we're not talking about you. We're talking about some people. There are people for whom it is certainly the primary concern. I don't go out dressing primarily. I wear shorts and t-shirts, but I know there are people who will go on out there trying to look as sexually enticing as they can.
But I would contest that then, because I would think that the only example where this realistically comes up, and maybe I needed to press this more in the debate, I think that the only time where you're only dressing primarily for sexual desires or tastes is like when you're wearing like a gimp suit and you're using that to like get off.
I honestly think you're only saying that because the alternative would be acknowledging how unworkable your definition is. There are absolutely people who dress in ways which complies with public decency guidelines, but is also primarily about sexual arousal. Like, now, of course, you now faced with that, you have two possible responses, which is either you call everyone who's ever dressed for the club a pedophile, or unintentionally enabling pedophilia, or you try and find a way in which the act of dressing to arouse other people while just barely skirting decency laws is somehow not a primarily sexual act. The fact that your first resort was to describe your intentions suggests to me that this is, well, I mean, you have to say something here, or you would have to change your definition, wouldn't you?
I mean, the difference is that what you're describing right now are not instances when people are wearing things primarily for sexual desires or interests. It sounds like that may be an element of it, but I would not say that's the primary purpose in those situations.
How do you quantify that exactly?
Usually it's going to, well, I mean, so this gets back to like the distinction between like ontology, epistemology, ethics. So like, you know, how do we actually tell when people are engaging in a sexual act? Well, usually we're going to go off of the totality of available evidence.
What if they just
and in
tell
this
you
case,
the reason they're doing it is to sexually arouse people? I mean, I've had convos. Like, have you ever been to like a slutty Halloween costume party? I mean, you can ask them. They're doing it to sexually arouse people. You can just
Okay, so
directly ask them. They will tell you. There's no need to fuss about with it. They will just say it very directly.
we need, all right, hold on. Maybe I'm not asking the right questions. So let me ask you then, all right? Because maybe this can help you understand at least my perspective better. Because I'm just trying to, what I want is for people to just understand this perspective. So what would you define as a sexual act?
I honestly think it's stupid to even try. I guess,
Wait,
I mean,
what?
I genuinely think that human sexuality is complicated enough that a term to encompass the entirety of acts that would fit within its purview would be subjective and almost impossible to like I could come up with one and another person could come up with a very different one, and I don't know if I could say theirs is any worse than mine or better. But if I had to come up with like a quick definition, like, I don't know, an act which pertains in some way to one or another's uh, sexual desire or arousal, like an act which is related in some way to your or another's sexual desires.
Okay, that's, yeah, that, all right. So we don't sound very different.
Right, but I
Um,
believe kissing near children is okay.
right, but I wouldn't say that kissing is always like primarily done for sexual reasons.
No, you just changed the definition. I said any
No.
act which relates to sexual desire. And I promise you that it's not, I am not alone in believing that making out with somebody, even a quick peck sometimes, you know, depending on how pent up you are, that's life, absolutely pertains to sexual desire. And I think you can do that in front of kids. I mean, if you couldn't kiss in front of kids, like, I mean, it's all over for all of us, I think.
Sure, but in this instance, so like this gets into like, all right, how do we arrive at like better definitions, right? Because like to an extent, you know, I can agree that like, yeah, we're focusing on like, we can have a wide range of different possible things. And usually it's going to relate to sexual desires or interests. Like I'm with you on that. But then you've introduced an issue where it's like, okay, sometimes we need to be able to make differentiations, because I would agree with you that like, yeah, like if you give someone a peck in public, then that's not something that we should call like pedophilia, or that's not something we should call a public sex act.
But you
Which is why I focus
refused
on
distinctions with
primary.
Doe.
Well, I mean, we can like dialogue back and forth and figure out a better definition, right? And the
Well,
problem that I have is that I like people keep looking at me like, "Oh, Riley, you present a really like outlandish, crazy definition," but I have yet to for someone to present me with a better one. And I feel like this is important for us to talk about and for us to have a clear and concise rule on, because we want to be able to have moral rules about when someone is violating someone else's consent in respect to sexual acts.
but a single
Like that's
term
very
won't be able to
important to me.
encompass that, because kissing is a sexual act. I mean, often at least, you know. You absolutely. But we can do that in front of kids. That's fine. I think it's kind of weird if you're like looking for groups of kids to make out in front of. Like Doe said, it seems there that the intent to involve children is quite a bit worse than children being incidentally around. Because everyone's kissed near kids. I mean, at least I think most of us
Right.
have. But you were insistent on avoiding specificity with definitions with Doe, or you only wanted one. I mean, you wanted sex act. Well, I've defined sex act for you, and I have just described to you a sex act which we conduct freely in public. So your insistence that sex acts done in public violate the consent of others by the category you've agreed to with my definition is false.
Yeah, but then all right, so then we have to get into the issue of evaluating the strength and the utility. Because I know that you like you understand that like words, social constructs, we generally are going to advocate for meanings of words which give us greater or lower utility, right? Are you on board with me with that?
Yeah, I like utility. But you're a Kantian, aren't you? Of what relevance is that to you?
Well, I mean, like with language, we can be able to look at like the meanings of words and make those kinds of evaluations.
Mm.
So here, we can look at two different definitions of what sex acts are, and we can be able to go through applications of those and be able to derive whether or not they lead to outcomes which we feel are morally sound or justifiable. And so that's the whole point of going through these scenarios. So like if you give me a rule for what is a sex act, and then you turn around and you say, or not, I don't want to say, sorry, that's loaded language, but then you demonstrate the limitations of that rule, you demonstrate the limitations of that definition, then I would say, okay, so now we can look at a different rule, or we can adjust that so we can be able to account for the issues with that kind of rule, right?
Right, I would agree. And I think that whatever exemptions you would make would well include what Doe was talking about in the conversation. Going barefoot in a park where kids might be, when you have a foot fetishist partner. I cannot imagine that as a violation of anyone's consent, because to everyone around you, they're just seeing a person whose feet are out. But I mean, like, to be clear, I've agreed with Doe's perspective on this. So, I mean, now apparently, it and I are both unintentionally promoting pedophilia. I think that's ludicrous. And I'll be more specific. I think it's so ostentatious that it borders on bad faith, and it's an attempt at you pedo-jacketing as a way of legitimizing a emotional discomfort you have with sexuality. That's the feeling I have. Like, it's so outlandish that the best explanation I can think of is that you're just generally uncomfortable with sexuality, and you're looking for the harshest condemnation you can find for people to avoid really confronting your perspective. And this is it. And you found it. And it ended with you essentially invalidating the child sexual exploitation of a CSA survivor. Clearly, this is not an effective road for us to be walking. There has to be a better attitude to be taking towards this.
So I would say I disagree with, I think, all of that. But we can go through each step individually and walk you through why I think each individual part is wrong. I mean, I think that like the speculating to my mindset is blatantly wrong and unfounded. Like, I don't think that you know anything about me or my motivations or why I say the things that I do.
No, of course, it's an inference. I mean, that's what we have to make, don't we? I mean, we have to infer people's behavior sometimes. And when it comes to arguments like this, I cannot imagine a person as intelligent as you would sincerely be making this argument as a component of some broader opposition to child sexual abuse, because that's not what it is. I mean, exempting some head injury, I mean, there has to be some other underlying motivation. So I reach, and I have to infer, you know.
Do you think, well, hold on, like, do you think that it could not just be the case that I really care about protecting consent?
I think this is an extraordinarily bad way of doing it, if that's the case. But if you do, I mean, I guess sometimes the thought is not what counts, you know?
Okay, so then let's go back, because you said that just the fact that, so let's go back to, you said a lot of things earlier. I want to go through them one by one. So you said that you agree with Doe that going out with your foot fetishist partner in public without shoes around children would make you a pedophile. Do you think that's what my position is?
How about you tell me what your position is on people who would go barefoot in public around their foot fetishist partner?
So with the way that you described it to me, that I don't have an issue with the way that you described my position. This is the reason why I was saying in chat that you weren't describing my position, because the issue that I had with what Doe said specifically was not the fact that there was someone with a foot fetishist, or there was like someone with a foot fetish going out in public with like a partner who was not wearing shoes. That was not the issue in and of itself. The point was that the partner of the person with the foot fetish knew about the foot fetish, and that was the primary reason that they went shoeless in public in order to get them off. And you know that Doe agreed to that scenario, right? Like the point isn't the existence of the foot fetish. The point is the intentionally
Yeah, I would
primarily
assume
doing something to get your partner off in public around other people.
Yeah, I would assume if they're partners, they know about that. To me, this is a distinction without difference. Yes, I think that's the
No,
exact same thing.
no, I don't think that's no, because in one situation, you are doing something primarily in order to get your partner off, and then the other you're not.
Sure.
I don't
Yeah.
care.
Yes, you go barefoot because your partner likes feet. Yes.
All right, but hold on. There's a lot more there that you're skipping over, right? Like this isn't just your partner likes feet. It's your partner is sexually attracted
Yes.
to
So
bare feet.
I'm sorry. I'm not. The language I'm using isn't flippant because I'm trying to weasel out of specificity. I accept these terms. Yes, they are sexually attracted to the feet. They're awkwardly shuffling to hide their boner underneath their belt loop, or whatever. Yes, sure. Fine.
Okay. And you know from watching the conversation that Doe agreed that within what they proposed, like the tweet that we were talking about, the tweet where they said that there's also like the calling them a pedophile, and I also dispute that. I would also, but we'll come back to that in a little bit. But in the tweet that we were talking about, they also agreed that like you were able to bring the other like in the scenario that they were describing, that like it's also reasonably inferred that the person was able to get their partner to come to orgasm.
I don't know. The getting off means a lot of stuff. So they just like came from seeing their feet in public?
I'm pretty sure. I am about
I don't think that was part of the
confident that Doe agreed to the premise that yeah, they got their partner to orgasm in front of other people.
If Doe's still in chat, Doe, was that part of the initial premise? I don't believe that was the case. I think when people say getting off, they usually mean like, oh, you're getting off to something, like you find it attractive. At least that's what I've heard.
All right, well, I'm about 99.9% sure that I asked that very explicit question and that Doe agreed.
I think Doe said that in your conversation that wouldn't be a thing which necessarily violates the consent of the people around, but I don't think it was part of the initial tweet conversation, at least not to my memory.
No, but that was the issue, right? Is that was the natural implication of the initial tweet thread.
So let's really break it down then and isolate these variables, okay? I'll use a couple that I used while watching the video. Do you think that a person who orgasms from the vibrations of a bus, I bring this up because I had a friend who could do this, who does so from the vibrations of a bus, that them like coming while on a bus, like riding it, like that's a violation of the consent of the people on that bus?
It depends on whether or not they rode the bus with the primary intention of using it to get off. If they didn't, then I would say not. That's why I focus on primary intention.
So what if they know that they can do this on buses because they've always been able to, and they choose to get on a bus?
I would say that it depends on whether or not they're primarily trying to appeal to a sexual desire.
So
they may be aware of it, but if they're not trying to appeal to a sexual desire, then no.
What if the couple wanted to go on a walk because they needed to pick up groceries, and the whole foot fetish barefoot thing was just sort of a flare along the way? The primary intent of their travel was to go pick up groceries, but they thought, oh, sure, you know, feet off or shoes off, why not? And then the other person comes in their pants. They're remarkably sensitive, I guess.
I would say, I think on the basis of those questions, I would also say that's not a sexual act. Because again, we're looking at primary intention, right? It sounds like from what you described that there's not like primary intention. If anything, it's like it's more of an accident.
The distinction between these things to me seems arbitrary and impossible to define. What is or is not a person's primary intent? I mean, like you were doing it earlier with how people dress. I don't know how you could ever maybe they could have driven to go get the groceries. Like how much of a percent of them not wearing shoes is part of the, I don't know if there's a way to really distinguish primary intent relative to the dozens of other things that might motivate us to do something in the way we do. I mean, my primary intent when I go downstairs, like, am I getting chicken nuggies am I getting them from the oven? Am I saying hello to my cats? Am I enjoying the cooler temperatures down there? Like, it all plays into it.
So here, I would say that this is a distinction between ontology and epistemology. This is a difference between like, how do we, like, what is a sex act versus how do we know if someone is committing a sex act? And so when we're getting into the question of how do we know if someone is committing a sex act, right? How do we evaluate what someone's primary intention is? We're going to go off of, because it's inductively reasoned, right? The totality of available evidence. So, you know, if someone wears like a low cutting top to a party or whatever, like the situation that you described earlier, we can reasonably infer that there's multiple reasons why those clothes are made in such the way that they are. So we would be able to say, like, all right, unless more evidence presents itself to the contrary, we probably as a society are going to assume that you're not wearing that primarily for a sexual purpose. But in the contrary, for example, and this was during the Kink at Pride discourse, with wearing a gimp suit, something that is primarily designed for sexual purposes, then we are able to make a pretty easy distinction and say, okay, this is something where we can pretty easily say that, like, if you're using it and its primary use is for sexual purpose, then we can infer that you're primarily doing this for a sexual purpose.
But how could you do that with a person with a foot fetish? How do you know whether the primary intent of their walking was to satiate the fetish, or if they were just getting groceries and decided to spice it up along the way? There'd be no way without reading their minds. It's a meaningless distinction in practice. Likewise with taking the bus, if you nut from it, you know, like you could ask them, like, hey, did you get on this bus so you could nut? And they're like, no, I just really like 3rd Street. I mean, you could never have that conversation with them. I don't think there's no way of knowing. And what's more, like,
well, can I respond to that before you go on?
Well, I is the nutting the thing? Like, if we, or no, what about Kink at Pride? There are people who wear leather and gimp suits, not because it sexually satiates them, but because they feel like it's part of the culture of the LGBT community, and they wear it to show solidarity. Now, it's not my fashion choice, but that's definitely a thing that happens. I mean, it seems like if our definition of sex act is involving calculus and inference and all of this, and we're doing all of it to, like, mathematically determine what's appropriate in public, like, aren't there other ways we could talk about what's appropriate in public? Is wearing feet bare in public acceptable? Yes. Is kissing in public acceptable? Yes. Is wearing tube tops in public acceptable? Yes. Anything past that, any distinction or differentiation past that, seems like an effort in punishing sin. Like, you're looking for people who are doing it the wrong way, almost. Like, there's some invisible line.
All right. So the reason why we're looking at it through the lens of intent is because we want to be able to say sometimes when someone does something which no one else knows about, that we can still be able to morally condemn them, despite the fact that no one knows about it, right? Like the example that we went through several examples during the conversation, but like the primary one I use to describe this is like the perfect date raper, right? We can imagine someone who goes and date rapes someone in such a way where the person never ends up finding out, right? And in that kind of a situation, there's no measurable physical or mental harm if the other person never finds out. We want some way
Do you think if someone
to be able to say why that's morally condemnable, even if we never, like, the person who was like harmed in this case never finds out.
Yeah,
that's the reason why.
You could invoke bodily autonomy. Yeah, even if they never find out, it's a violation of their bodily autonomy. Would you equate that to jerking off to somebody in your head? Because both of them are an invocation of them, in your mind at least.
I would not say they are the same, because I would agree that with the latter there is also a bodily autonomy violation. I think with both situations, you run into a circumstance where you're violating the consent of the other person. And I will
While jerking off while thinking about somebody?
So that's the extreme implication. I'll use a,
Well, you did.
a
You
different
you
example.
you directly said you believed that in your conversation. You said while talking
Yes.
with Doe that that jerking off while thinking about something was using them. You were very insistent on that terminology.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, like, sure, I can justify that, but people seem to get hung up on it. But sure, we can. I'll explain that. So basically, like, this goes back to the issue of finding words or rules which are able to lead to overall the most outcomes that we feel justified or fine with, right? Because I think that what I'm talking about, the baseline rule, overall leads to like the most common. Like I think that like in just about every other scenario, people will look at the implications of what I'm talking about, and for the large part, agree with me.
That's
Like for example, with
not how I feel. I'll admit.
all right, well then we can talk about more examples. But like, for example, when we talk about something like with the age of consent, we have a rule that is useful in society. Sometimes we look at the implications of that rule and we end up squinting a little bit and thinking like intuitively, well, I mean, like if they're 17 months and like 11 or 17 years and 11 months, like, is it like really that bad? But here it's like, we can recognize that overall the word gives us, or like the rule gives us a lot of utility and a lot of help, even if sometimes it ends up leading us to morally admonish certain behavior that doesn't end up making as much sense. But it makes sense because otherwise the rule kind of falls apart and doesn't have any utility.
I don't disagree with that, but I don't see what that has to do with thinking of people while jerking off to them.
So here, this would be like the equivalent, because I would stand by it. But as far as like the intuitive reaction that people are having, because I understand people are looking at me and being like, what the fuck, Riley? But the reason why is because it's similar to people feeling like, oh, well, they were both like 17 and 11 months, right? Like it's the same intuitive, like,
I don't think those are even remotely comparable.
I think that those, like, no, I would think that those are very comparable in terms of how people perceive them, right? Like there's lots of people who have sex in high school. Normally we would look at them and a lot of people would be like, wait a second, right? Like they're high schoolers, they're like exploring their sexuality. If they're having sex with each other, it's fine. But I would say the age of consent is still good and we ought to still use it, because otherwise we have to draw these lines arbitrarily. We have to draw this line somewhere in society. It might not always lead to like the most perfect explanations, but this is the one that gives us the most utility.
Right. No, I agree about that with the age of consent.
Right.
I don't know what that has to do with thinking about
like,
a person while you jerk off to them. The reason we value the age of consent, even though it is by definition an arbitrary line we've drawn, you're right, there's not really a distinction between being 1 second before 18 and being 18, of course, but we still maintain the law, is because the thing we're preventing, which is the rape of children, is valuable. I need the value explained to me on why it's wrong to masturbate while thinking of a person. Like, what are we defending? What am I fighting for?
So there we're defending, we're defending someone's categorical right to consent. That's what we're defending there.
I don't think their consent is relevant. They're not being invoked in anywhere but my thoughts. I'm not using their neurons. It's my neurons.
But we would still say that, but for them existing, you wouldn't be able to even picture what they look like. Like you cannot even do that without them existing. So I would say that in that extent, and I know that people are going to look at this and be like, well, Riley, this is like a really obscure example. But I would say in that sense that you are still using them similarly if you were using like a picture taken without someone's consent.
I think those are very different things. When you take a picture of a person, first of all, you're discussing proximity. Second of all, you're talking about creating a physical or digital record of a person. Third of all, we do take pictures without people's consent all the time. If you're just wandering around your workplace, sort of taking photos, or your house, and you snap a picture of your family member or whatever, there are contextual modifiers here. It's not just the security cameras. I don't know every security camera that I've ever walked in front of, certainly. The context we're talking about here is taking a photo with sexual intent. And for me, it really depends on how you take it, right? Now, if you're like sneaking up on them to get like a little candid shot and you jerk off to that, I think the taking the picture bit is weird, like Doe said, but the jerking off bit seems to me like the non-issue. I mean, if you took that picture but didn't jerk off to it, I still think that would be weird. The picture seems to be the problem there.
I would disagree, because we can imagine. So Doe agreed to this, or I was talking about this with someone. It may have been with Doe. We can imagine when someone is in public, right, where we would probably say that it's fine to be able to take pictures of them, right? They don't have that same entitlement to privacy, and maybe they weren't even acting in a sexual way. But let's say that you take a photo of someone and you end up uploading it to a website where it's just like the whole point of that website is to masturbate to pictures of women taken without their knowledge.
Yeah,
right?
you're talking about creep shots. But that does involve taking the picture, which is the element that I take issue with. If you're thinking of like creep thoughts,
So how is that an issue?
Because you're creating a
what's the
public
principle?
archive of real people. You're uploading photos of them. I'm sorry, do you not see the difference? You're uploading photos.
I just want to know what the issue with that is, because it seems like we already live in a society where we've conceded that that is just basically a normal part of society.
To upload photos to jerk-off sites?
No, to upload photos online generally.
Online generally, sure. So like the taking a photo in a way which broaches a person's personal space would be a way in which you can do it that's bad. And what you do with that photo after you've taken it can be bad. But you can take a photo of a person in a way that's creepy with no sexual intent whatsoever. I mean, you can try it. Go to a restaurant, sit in one of the stalls, and then creepily snap a photo of the person in the stall over. You do not have to jerk off to that photo for you to feel like a weirdo doing it. So in this case, I think it's just...
Let me ask you about a different scenario then.
What you're talking about here is violating social norms concerning photographing others, which are complicated. And I don't know if I have a consistent understanding, because you could throw a million examples. But we're not talking about jerking off to the thought of a person. I just don't understand what the issue with it is. Who's being hurt?
Well, the issue, hold on, there's an issue of consent here. So we can use another example. Let's say that we have an Instagram model. They do not do any porn or any sex-based work, all right? But they upload their own pictures of their body online. And a lot of people end up jerking off to that person, even though they do not provide their consent, even though they do not give consent to be able to do that. Now, do you think that there's any difference between using that person's image versus using the images uploaded by someone who is a professional, like someone who is paid to create pornography? Do you think there's a difference between those two things?
One of them is probably going to be way hotter. If you're asking me morally if there's anything wrong to jerking off to the Insta model, my answer is no. I think that you could jerk off to either and be as morally absolved. Fucking game crashed. And could be as morally in the clear in both cases. 1 second, let me force quit this before my computer explodes. Holy shit. Fucking
all right.
Game.
Then let's take that. All right. So I would disagree with that, but in order to get at that, we have to go with other examples. Okay. So let's say that we have someone who's not an Instagram model. Let's say that we have someone online who is just like your average family
Facebook.
member.
People used to jerk off to Facebook swimsuit photos all the time. Like, that was like a whole thing. Now boomers use Facebook, but back when it was novel, people would be like, I saw her her swimsuit photos and I jerked off to it. That's not even swimsuit photos. Sometimes they'll just see like a cute girl or whatever. Now, I never engage in this behavior. I know that you can type boobies into Google, and some show up, but some other people haven't learned that yet. So,
right. Well, we can imagine that, like, if you go on Facebook, all right, let's take the same scenario, except instead of the Instagram model, you just have like, let's say that you have a person and they work with someone who they are also friends with on Facebook. They have a crush on that person, and then, as a consequence of that crush, they end up masturbating to pictures of that on social media. All right. Mm-hmm. Now, let's say that after this person does this for so many number of times, they end up going and telling the person who they masturbated to the images to that they had been masturbating to them. Mm-hmm. Can we reasonably imagine why the person who had been masturbated to would feel uncomfortable being told this information?
Yeah, because you told them. That's the rookie mistake.
Wait, no, that's not the issue here, though, right? Like,
it absolutely is the issue there. Yeah, you should have kept your fucking mouth shut, and you'd be fine.
So it's fine to be able to engage in behavior if they just never find out.
If it doesn't involve them in their consent or bodily autonomy at all, yeah, they're not there. You're just thinking of them. I don't need their I don't need their permission to think about them while jerking off to them. There are plenty of things I could do that are fine that they might be uncomfortable if I told them. If I like jerking off while looking at pornography is fine. At least it doesn't violate consent, you know. But if I went up to them and said, "Hey, last night I jerked off to pornography," they would also think that's pretty creepy that I told them, right? Past that, I mean,
so, but now we're at a problem of just defining like what counts as involving someone.
certainly not that.
All right, but what can you tell me? Like, where is the threshold for involving someone? That is the issue.
Well, I think at the very least they should be there. I mean, there should be some kind of contact.
Wait, there has to be physical contact?
No, like any kind of contact. You could be on the phone. I mean, literally anything. But like, we're talking about zero contact. You're just thinking of them. There's nothing unless you believe in some kind of magical. Like the Japanese think you sneeze if you're talked about. You know, like something like that. But
Right.
anything
Well,
anything past
you
that,
can
there's
imagine people
no harm.
who are able to engage in sex acts alone, right?
Yeah, it's been known to happen.
So in that case, contact actually does not matter. It actually doesn't matter.
Not for committing a sex act, but for committing a sex act with a person, then yeah, some kind of affiliation of any kind would be necessary.
Okay, so here we have to figure out like where's the threshold for involving someone else.
I'm sure philosophers have lived and died discussing this. I'm uninterested. It does not involve merely thinking about a person. Wherever the line is, it's past that. I don't want to have a conversation about what exact level of contact. We're talking about thinking about a person here. This doesn't even count. Wherever the conversation starts, it's not here.
All right, well, let me explain why it's relevant then. Because the reason why it's relevant to determine at what point involving someone else in a sexual act, or at what point we can say that you're involving someone else in a sexual act, the reason why it's important to be able to define that for purposes of this discussion is because in the original discussion, in the original tweet that we were talking about, where Doe said that I had called them a pedophile, which I didn't, what I specifically said was, I said that they were either intentionally making an argument that pedophiles would make, or they had negligently made one, that they weren't aware of the implications, but that they negligently made one.
Were people in your audience calling it a pedophile?
Were people in my, I mean, like, I think at the point, so the answer to that, truthfully, is probably at the point where they agreed that they would affirm the ability for people to be able to orgasm in front of children.
I'm pretty sure it was taking place well before that. Now I'm not gonna go internet sleuthing, but see, this is one of those semantic differences that it's, what is it? Distinction without a difference. When in the context of the conversation you all were having, and by the way, I agree with Doe almost everything we talked about. So whatever you say about it, you'll have to say about me too, I'm afraid. In the context of the conversation, it's pretty clear where your condemnations are rooted and what they lead to. Now, semantically, can we prove that you specifically use that language? Doe, you are a pedophile. Now, maybe there's some evidence somewhere, but I don't know of it. But in terms of the effect this has on Doe, I think it's well within its rights to say that you did so, because the language you've used feels, at least to us, like the lawyer version of saying that. You've constructed the is but isn't, the not really a dog whistle, but you found a way to say it without saying it. And as Doe pointed out, your audience vibed with that. So
But the reason, all right, well, can I justify this then?
Sure, but the initial Twitter take, which was just going barefoot in front of a partner, because they have a foot fetish and in public, like this to you was what warranted saying an inadvertent defense of pedophilia? I don't think those are the arguments pedophiles make. I've seen the crazy internet YouTube exposés of like Discord moderators whose lives have been ruined because they, got caught harassing teens or whatever. This usually isn't the argumentation they engage in. So Shu hates pedophiles. Shu on Head is a voracious anti-pedophile hound, And even Shu here did not
Hey,
find Doe's argument sussy-wussy. I just don't think it's appropriate.
I'm sorry, one moment. Something's happening. Just one moment.
No worries.
You talked about my girlfriend. She really would like to come on. She said, it seems urgent.
It's
Do you mind
urgent.
if I bring her on?
What? I would like to know what it's for. This is already extended a little bit past. I mean, we obviously have some severe disagreements here. I just feel like the terminology that you employed just destroyed a chance at a good conversation. I feel like most of what I said stands for itself. Just in what needs to be said.
The reason why is because she's been, and she feels the same way. I'm just reading messages, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've been strawmanned and harassed because of this, and I'd like to defend myself.
This platform is not for your exonerations. I'm covering this drama. If this has anything to do with any context beyond the one tweet of hers that I looked at, then it's beyond the scope of what I'm doing here. You have your own stream. I've seen you with more than 1,000 viewers for a good portion of the day. At any point, your girlfriend could come on, I'm sure, and correct the record.
All right. Then I'd like to go back to the specific tweet, and I'd like to be able to defend what I was saying about it, because I think that what I was saying was defensible. Now, when we're talking about, I just want to start with the plain meaning. I just want to talk about the plain meaning of what Doe was implying.
Mm-hmm.
You'd agree with me that Doe agreed that the implication of their tweet was to justify being able to orgasm in front of children, right?
No, I think that's remarkably uncharitable.
You know, Vaush, they literally agreed to that verbatim.
That's fine. I don't think that's a summary of their argument. I think they were making the argument that by the way. I think that their argument was that there are types of sexual acts that you can engage in fairly in public, which you and I agree with, making out with people. That's fine.
Vaush, you're not addressing the argument, though.
If the orgasm is the critical distinction here, then if there are people with fine-tuned genitalia who can come from kissing, a miracle, I know. Some exist.
But this isn't kissing. This is appealing to a foot fetish.
Kissing is absolutely
ultimately they agreed
sexually...
that they justified getting someone off to their foot fetish to the point of orgasm in front of children. They justified that.
Now, what does that mean to you when you say that?
What do you mean? What does that mean to me? They justify being able to bring someone to orgasm with their foot fetish in front of children.
You mean like they just see your bare feet and they come from it?
Well, that was specifically the language that they used in their tweet.
Right. Well,
they said that their partner likes feet, and I asked them about what that means. I asked, did you mean that this was a foot fetish? I asked it. All right, we can have another conversation about gender. I'll use it right now, but we also have to have a conversation about gender. So,
thank you.
When we're in this kind of a situation, said that it agrees to the idea that that was specifically talking about a foot fetish, right?
Mm-hmm.
It agreed to that. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And it agreed to the idea that the partner was primarily trying to get its partner off on the basis of that foot fetish in front of kids.
I don't know if, with the original tweets, I don't know if they specified in those tweets like orgasm, like getting off can mean a lot of things.
That's why I asked it. I asked Doe more questions about what exactly it meant, and it said that that's what it meant.
Gotcha.
Or it agreed with that characterization. All right. So I asked further clarifying questions because that's what I thought it meant. And it agreed with that assessment.
I think Doe earlier said that's not the case, but we can work. Let's work with the most extreme possible example. I mean, Doe said in my chat that's not the case, but had I only a better memory. And chat, if you have the full list of tweets, you're free to bring them up. But anyway, with regards to the specifics here, okay, fine. Making out with a person. Say a person has a hair trigger. You make out with them in public, they come from it. Now, making out with a person is undeniably a sexually gratifying act. In fact, unlike foot fetishes, it's an almost universally sexually gratifying act. For me, if I saw a barefoot,
we're not talking about that.
If I saw,
we're talking about what it said. This isn't what it said. All right.
I'm talking with you
is whether
about
or not what I said was justifiable, and we're going off of what it said.
Right, and I'm talking with you right now about an instance where an act of public sexual gratification leads to an orgasm, which I think is exactly what you are referring to. I mean, I think these are
we're
identical.
Talking about whether that's not identical.
How is it not identical?
Because in the second scenario, you're talking about doing something where you're not doing something primarily to sexually gratify.
No, you are making out primarily to sexually, at least for me, when I make out with a person, the main reason I'm doing it is usually because we're horny. That is definitely not just like 51%. That's like overwhelmingly the reason that I am doing that. So this is a primarily sexual act designed for gratification.
So you're saying that you're making out with someone primarily in order to orgasm, and then you come to orgasm in front of children.
No, in order to elicit arousal, and if they, in that arousal, nut in their pants, and it's in like a park or something. This is what I mean, by the way. Wait, hold on. This is what I mean, by the way, about, this is what I mean about the bad faith. The language that you elicit really does come off like you're just looking for clips. In front of children, in front of children. Wait, stop.
The implication of
Riley, nobody here, least of all me, would back off of a take, okay? I am fully aware of what I'm saying. I have at no point indicated that that's not the case. No, I've kept saying, you're in a park, you're in public, kids could be there. I've said this so many times, but every time you insist in front of the children, you're very clear you want to get that into, what, a 30 or 60-second snapshot of the conversation?
I'm not trying to get a clip.
It comes off that way. We all know what we're talking about. So stop
trying to explain my take,
the semantic runabout. Let's just...
This isn't semantics. This has to do with the specifics of this case.
So I ask you, you make out with them. You're in a public park. There are people of all ages there. The person with whom you are making out has a hair trigger, and they come from making out with you. What a gift they have. Do you think this is...
that.
I'm sorry?
I would distinguish that. I would say that in that case, you're not trying to get them to orgasm in that sense. They have a hair trigger. They come accidentally.
Anyone who comes from looking at their partner's bare feet also has a hair trigger.
That's not a hair trigger. You're appealing to specifically a foot fetish.
Yeah,
there's a big difference between that.
Wait, okay. So, yes, if you have a foot fetish and you can come simply from looking at feet, you have a hair trigger in addition to having a foot fetish. But
no,
everyone,
that's not what was talked about.
Almost everyone, at least, likes making out.
That was not what was in the original tweet, though.
We're not the
that's
tweet.
What we're talking about.
Tweet. What did the tweet specifically say orgasm? Because anything short of that, we're operating off of inferences and reinterpretations. Okay.
No, I was able to specifically ask though what it meant, and they agreed with my assessment that we're talking about a foot fetish and that you could justify bringing someone to orgasm in front of children.
Yeah, if they do it just by looking at people's bare feet, that would be a hair trigger. Here, the tweet was this.
No, but it's not just that. All right, it's not just that. We're talking about someone doing something primarily in order to appeal to that specific sexual desire.
So is kissing. Wait, making out is a thing. When I make out with someone, I am doing it to specifically appeal to their sexual desire of being.
But you're not doing it specifically to get them off.
No, if you walk in public, by get them off, you mean orgasm.
Yeah.
Okay. The anybody who could come just from seeing feet like out there is as much of a hair trigger as a person who could come simply from making out.
Look at this tweet. All right. What they agreed with me. All right. So this isn't an extrapolation.
If you go shoeless to a public event because your partner likes feet, you're not involving children in a sexual act. This doesn't even use the term getting off.
I asked them, hold on. Some people like feet. That's obviously referring to a foot fetish. I asked Doe if that's referring to a foot fetish. They agreed. Okay? So that's step one. And if you go shoeless to a public event because your partner likes feet, because your partner has a foot fetish, you're appealing to that foot fetish, we're talking about a sexual act.
Yeah, but we're not talking about orgasming.
Trying to appeal. You are doing something because you know it's specifically appealing to
you
your
are
partners.
all over the place. This tweet does not
all
even
over the
suggest orgasm. Some people
This
like
is- no,
feet.
this
If
is
you go,
talking about
Riley,
appealing.
Riley, some people like feet. If you go shoeless to a public event because your partner likes feet, you're not involving children in a sexual act. I've watched your debate with it twice, and in neither case was I under the impression that Doe seeded the idea that this tweet implied orgasm. Doe went on to discuss further hypotheticals with you. I do not recall that. Now, do I have a good memory? I absolutely do not. But I do not have any memory of that taking place. If we're going to talk about anything specific, it is why you thought this tweet justified saying that Doe was promoting pedophilic arguments intentionally or unintentionally. This tweet right here is unassailable. It is bulletproof. You could armor Iraqi soldiers with it, and they would be that you could drop a Moab on them, and they would live.
I absolutely disagree.
So you think so let's remove the orgasm. You think that you're involving children in a sexual act by going to a place barefoot with your partner and choosing to be barefoot because you know your partner likes your feet, like they have a foot fetish.
Now, hold on, pause.
That is a yes or no question, right?
All right, then the answer is no, and I'll explain it.
Really? Okay.
Because in there, specifically with the last part, involving children in a sexual act, I would say that you're causing harm by engaging in incredibly risky behavior.
What is risky?
When you're engaging in something which has a very high likelihood of causing someone else harm. So you are either directly involving someone else in a sexual act, or you risk doing so.
By walking around barefoot. That's a risky act?
It's not by walking around barefoot. It's by walking around barefoot specifically because you know that it gets your partner off by virtue of their foot fetish.
So how is this different from making out with your partner in public? See, now we've removed orgasm from the table. We're just making out. So to be clear, I'm talking about a full-on steamy makeout sesh. None of this high school... Actually, high schoolers make out harder than anyone, I guess, like, because it's the first time you've done it, right? At least I'm better at it now. But I'm talking, let's say, fucking slobbering makeout, you know, you're just insanely into it. This is absolutely for sexual gratification for you both. Now, is this a bit tasteless? Sure. I would argue it can be a bit tasteless in public. That PDA, that's a lot. But is it involving children in a sexual act if there are children in the vicinity? If you're in a park, if you're in an airport, is it involving them in a sexual act?
Yeah, the risk involves becoming hold on, so we need to go through this. So not all kissing is a sexual act.
I'm specifying. We've already moved through this.
I understand that. I'm building up to that. So in this kind of a situation, what we're talking about is effectively crossing a threshold from where you are not engaging in what we would call a sexual act, because that's not your primary intention in making out, but somewhere along the ways that shifts, and now you are. All right?
Yeah, you're
and there, I would say that you are engaging in a sexual act.
By making out. Yeah, okay, so yes.
It's not just making out. You've conceded that, like, no, you've crossed a threshold where now you're doing it primarily for sexual gratification.
Yes, I didn't concede it. That was my opening statement. And yes, you're doing all of that.
So it's not just, so let's be clear, like, it's not be like reductive. It's not just making out. Like, we're talking about something very specific here.
Are you paid by the hour before even finishing law school? This is extraordinary. Yes.
I'm not. What are you talking about? I'm just responding to your argument. I'm engaging with what you said.
Okay. You're repeating what I've said. Yes, it is a sex act. I would agree. You're making out hot and heavy. It is a sex act. Do you think it's involving adjacent children in the sex act? Do you think that you're without their consent, violating?
I think that you run a heavy risk of involving them if you do it publicly, or if you do not recluse yourself to a private vicinity in order to be able to continue doing that. Like, that's the reason we tell people, hey, get a room, you know? Because at some point we realize, yeah, like there's probably a threshold that you cross where you ought go somewhere private.
Okay.
This is not an extreme take.
So,
and I think so. Like, if you want me, I can give you another analogy for what.
I have a follow-up question, then we can entertain this analogy. So, you're telling me that if a person on Twitter was like, "Yeah, I don't care. I'll make out with my husband when I see him. I don't give a fuck where I am," you would like quote tweet that person and say, "You're unintentionally or intentionally justifying pedophilia with these arguments." No, wait, hold on. We have established every single equivalence. We are talking about a sexually gratifying act done primarily for sexual gratification, a sex act, which we are doing in public. It is 100% equivalent. We have annihilated the orgasm. It is not relevant to this specific example because it wasn't in the tweets. The behavior, I am reduced to assuming that you just have a hatred for foot fetishes, which, by the way, same. And your bias is from that, or it has something to do with dough. Because these are equivalent. Explain to me what the difference is between the makeout that I just described and the foot fetish example illustrated in Doe's tweet, where it said you are merely going footless while outside with a foot fetishist partner. No orgasms involved, no getting off. 2 sex acts done in public. Why is one of them shoeless, not footless? Why is one of them justifying pedophilia and the other isn't?
So wait, hold on. So is the example of the tweet that you sent out, are we not talking about that? Because I can distinguish why that's not something like the other examples that we're talking about. In that instance, you did not specify that, like, oh, the reason that they're doing that, the reason that they're going to go kiss their husband is in order to specifically appeal to some kind of sexual desire.
I did say that. I did say you are making out with somebody because it is sexually gratifying. You're going up to them. You can even announce it beforehand. I am going to make out with you because it is hot and sloppy, and then you do so.
You can be able to make out with someone for multiple reasons.
Wait, Riley. You need a four loco. No. What I said specifically controlled.
That's not talking about a sexual act. Based on what you said.
No, you said it was.
Based on the tweet, we're talking about all right, there's 2 different scenarios that you're talking about.
Riley. My example of making out in public was one which you described to be a risky sex act. And likewise with Doe's tweet. So I ask you to distinguish between them. Please don't say, well, not all kissing is sexual, because that's already accounted for in the example that I've proceeded with.
No, I mean, hold on. But that is, so otherwise, so we can go through this. So in the situation, specifically like what you described, and I want to make sure, because I feel like, this was the implication of what you just said, I feel like you're about to turn around and say, oh, well, just because Riley says that these 2 things are analogous, because right now I'm inclined to believe that they are, that you're going to say that all kissing in public is therefore endorsing pedophilia, which is not my argument.
No.
I would say that in the scenario like what you described, specifically the way that you were engaging, where you're engaging primarily in order to get each other off, if you're doing that in front of children, it looks a little sus. Yeah.
Okay, so would you say that a person who defends that, the sloppy makeout sessions in public, whether it be in an airport or a public park or wherever else, would you say those people are intentionally or unintentionally enabling pedophilia with their arguments? As you did with Doe.
I would say that if you're trying to defend being able to get off your partner sexually in front of children, in whatever way that is, then that would be a little sus.
Doe's tweet did not say get off.
They agreed.
You said what you said. Wait,
that's what the meeting
Riley,
was.
Riley.
I asked it.
Riley, it has been in my chat saying that is not the case. I don't believe you. Now, either way, Riley, I haven't muted yet, and I don't want to. You called Doe what you called Doe before this conversation. So based only on the content of the tweet, you must answer me. What is the difference between a person defending sloppy makeout sessions in public and what Doe tweeted, which did not involve getting off, did not involve orgasm, said only going barefoot around your foot fetishist partner to turn them on? As one does. When I make out with somebody, I am turned on. When somebody leans in to make out with me, they do it to turn me on. Because it's a
right,
makeout
hold on.
session.
No, so the problem with the way that you are asking this question is that it's presupposing that the tweet in question doesn't have the meaning that is reasonably surmisable and that Doe eventually confirmed. All right.
There's nothing in that tweet that says getting off at all. Nothing in there even infers, implies,
that's what the implication is.
How?
And that's why I asked Doe about the implication, and they agreed to me.
It didn't. It has been in my chat saying it didn't. And by the way, I don't remember it doing so either. I only remember it entertaining the hypothetical after feeling that they had
multiple times. I asked it very clearly.
Riley, I am not interested in arguing with you against a person's interpretation when they're in my chat to argue against it. I am only interested in talking about the tweet and reasonable inferences from it. And nothing in this tweet even remotely suggests orgasm. Going shoeless to a public event because your partner likes feet? Where does this imply orgasm?
I think, hold on, someone just sent me the actual clip. If you want, we can watch it together.
Sure, but it doesn't matter. I want to know why you responded to Doe with regards to this tweet. Where in this tweet is orgasm suggested? It doesn't matter,
because this is Doe clarifying the exact meaning of it.
I want you to explain to me where in this tweet... I
have the clip. We can go over it right now.
We will go over it shortly, but I want you to tell me, without any further context, does this tweet in and of itself suggest to you orgasm is involved?
This tweet leads to a reasonable implication that it is.
I think that is either insane or dishonest, and I have to leave it to my audience to decide.
It literally agreed to that interpretation.
How long after? What was this? June 30th, 2021. Did you peer into the future? Do you have a crystal ball?
No, we have to make reasonable summations about what the meaning of these words are.
How is it reasonable?
Because it's talking about a foot fetish.
You can have a foot fetish without coming in your pants. I have never known a person with a foot fetish who came in their pants because a person near them was barefoot. That's some high-level stuff.
Clearly reasonable since it agreed to that description of it.
Hold on. So those here, hold on. And again, by the way, I don't think it did. But even if it did, that doesn't make you post hoc right. We are not a results-based analysis lover over here. If you are wrong then and accidentally proven right in the future.
Hold on. No, I think it's good evidence that I had a pretty good idea about what was being talked about.
Hold on. So Doe says in the chat right now, I didn't, quote, clarify the meaning of the tweet, end quote. I continued in another example that orgasming in public can be okay sometimes. That is not what the tweet means, Vaush. So Doe is saying right now that this tweet does not contain any inference to orgasm, which I don't read in it either. As an orgasm lover, I'm not seeing it here. I want to and I can't.
I would disagree. Some people if you go to, all right, hold on, because we need to make sure that we're putting this tweet in the context.
Show me the clip.
What we're talking about within the context of this thread is specifically sex. All right,
show me the clip.
That was what we were talking about in the context of this tweet thread.
Sex acts include making out. Have you ever come from making out?
What? No, but this is.
Wait, hold on. But making out. But making out can be a sex act, right?
Context, all right.
But making out can be a sex act, can't it?
The initial tweet was talking specifically in the context of an entire thread about sex act.
Yes, like making out can be, as you agreed with me. But I've never come from a makeout session.
It can be if you are trying to do it in order to orgasm.
Wait, you think making out is only a sex act if you do it in an effort to orgasm?
Yeah, you can be able to make out for romantic reasons. You can make out for, like, I've made out with my girlfriend for just romantic reasons. You don't have to do it.
Wait, hold on. This is like a basic logical error. I'm not saying all forms of making out are sex acts, but like, so what about slapping a person's ass? If that doesn't make them orgasm, does that not make it sex? What is your definition of a sex act?
No, there'd be other problems with that. All right, hold on. You know that there would be other problems with that kind of an example.
With your partner.
What, with your partner? Well,
yeah, you slap your partner's ass in public.
There would be like a bodily autonomy issue.
No, it's your partner. They're fine with it. It's your partner.
If it's your partner, then it's just nothing. I mean, if they've already consented, then but the only issue there would be a bodily autonomy one.
Well, okay, so say they're fine with it. What about squeezing their tits in public?
What about squeezing their?
I've never been with a girl.
One. I mean, like, I don't know that if you.
Is that a sex act?
Not if you're trying to. Not if you're not doing it in order to get them off.
Oh, wait, okay. So
I mean, it would be another issue. It would be a bodily autonomy issue.
So no, there's no bodily. In this assumption, they're my partner. They're fine with this. So you're saying that I could grope my girlfriend's tits in public, but it's not it's not a sex act because I know that my girlfriend can't come from it on its own.
No, all right. So this is a difference between, again, ontology and epistemology.
No, it's a difference between a sensible understanding of sex acts and a nonsensible one.
No, I'm going to explain.
Is caging a dick in like one of those chastity cages a sex act? That goal of that thing is to do the opposite of get you off. That does the opposite.
All right, Vaush, no, you need to stop and listen to me, and I will explain why you cannot do that.
Give me the clip with Doe. Please give me the clip with Doe.
Okay,
I know this conversation will continue forever.
Stop. Well, I need to explain. All right, you asked me a question.
There's always an explanation. Give me the clip. I'll watch it with stream. And you can
there's always an explanation. I can explain to you. You asked me a question. I can give you an answer. Can I please give you the answer?
Which question did I ask you?
You asked me why you wouldn't be able to, or why you would be able to grope your partner's breasts in public. I would say that you would not be able to.
Is it a sex act to grope?
I would say it is not a sex act, but because we're looking primarily at intent when we surmise what a sex act is, then any reasonable person would look at that and still say that we ought not allow that kind of behavior in public.
Why?
This is also the reason why, even though you may have the situation with the good faith wearer of like a gimp suit, we could imagine where you have instances where like someone wears a gimp suit just because they like the feel of it or whatever. We would still say that you aren't allowed to do that around people because the primary intention of wearing that thing, of doing that thing, is for sexual purposes, right? Like in the situation you described, even if you're not like trying to, even if you're not appealing to a partner's sexual desire, most people would look at that kind of behavior and understand that's usually what people are doing. So since we are looking at intent, that's the best we have to do in this kind of situation.
Wildly inconsistent
this is absolutely not inconsistent.
No, it absolutely is. So first of all, earlier you agreed to my definition of a sex act, which just meant behavior adjacent to sexual interest or desire.
No, I didn't agree to it. I acknowledged.
So a sex act for you. So hold on, wait, Riley, wait, no, because Riley, you have a shovel and there's still dirt beneath you. You will never stop. So we could be here until 3 a.m. my time. We could be here forever. Give me the clip from Doe. You could have linked it in the Discord by now. Explain to me, please, while linking it, do both. Explain to me why the definition of a sex act should only contain things which are meant to achieve orgasm. You said that it has to be towards getting off.
Well, the reason, all right, so hold on. So usually getting off is the inference, all right? But I would say when you are primarily appealing to sexual desires or interests, that naturally entails trying to get off. When that is the primary thing you are trying to do, then that is the implication of that action.
Absolutely not. Something can be a sex act without it being about trying to bring a person to orgasm. What about people like having their face pissed on? You can't come from that, can you? But it's absolutely a sex act.
But we need to be able to acknowledge that there are sex acts where someone is not coming to orgasm. Otherwise, we end up in situations where, for example, if you have someone who rapes a person, but they are impotent, they are unable to come to orgasm, we want to still be able to call that a sex act.
I agree. I don't think orgasm has anything to do with a sex act. I think it's...
And I would agree.
Okay. So if you're making out with a person real hot and heavy, do you think that's a sex act if the goal for the makeout session is to sexually arouse both people?
I think that if the natural implication of that is arousing them enough to eventually bring them to orgasm, then yeah.
Like they're both... You just said orgasm wasn't the necessary...
Sorry. Yeah, all right. Then let me... All right.
So you just did that accidentally. You're correcting yourself live. We could do this for another 5 hours. You've done this multiple times before.
No, I'm not correcting
you just did that live. You were like, wait, hold on.
I'm distinguishing kissing generally, all right, from kissing in the way that you are describing.
Nobody is talking about kissing generally. Hot and heavy makeout. You're wrapping your arms around him.
Generally, when you're doing it for romantic purposes, is not a sexual act.
Yeah, we're nobody's talking about that. Hot and heavy making out, arms
Yeah,
wrapped
and in
around
that
both
case,
sides.
I would call it whenever you move to wherever you are primarily focusing on sexual gratification, all right, or sexual desires, or the satisfaction of sexual desires.
Sexual
I would
desire,
call
that's
that
different from getting off. Like my sexual desire is elicited when I see cleavage. But that's not, I mean, women wear that shit
Well,
to
then
work.
how about this? All right, then maybe this will help. Can we draw a distinction between sexual kissing and romantic kissing?
We wouldn't need to, because all I've ever been talking about is sexual kissing, and for some reason, for 80 times now, you felt the need to distinguish between that and the thing we're not talking about, which is non-sexual kissing. We don't need to, because the distinction, there's not just a line between these two. We have drawn a canyon between these two things.
Then yeah, I would say that you should not do that in public.
Okay.
I would say that you can do romantic kissing in
hot
public.
and heavy making out, like sex, yeah, like sexy kissing.
Yeah, like you should, I would say that you should not do sexual kissing in public. I would say find a room. That's what the conventional wisdom is.
Sure.
And
okay.
by the way, relating this back to the original tweet, this is a big skip away from where we started, which is saying that you should be able to get your partner off.
That was, wait, why would you say the tweet and then say a thing that wasn't in the tweet?
Because that was the implication of it. And
I want a difference. Riley,
I just sent you the clip. We can watch it.
Yes, I'll read it in just a second. But
what it said.
That's right. So even if Doe said that was what they meant in that, or what it meant in that tweet, it is irrelevant to the fact that the tweet itself, in the context already provided, was something that you felt elicited accusations of pedophilia defense. And I want you. Yes, the tweet was all you had.
No, I think that any reasonable person can look at that and come away with the meaning of, oh yeah, this is talking about a foot fetish.
Yes, right? A foot, yes, but not orgasm.
If you're talking about someone specifically trying to appeal, like, it's not just a foot fetish.
Riley,
hold on,
Riley, honest question. Do you know how sex works?
What? Yes.
You can satiate a fetish without it being driven to fulfill an orgasm.
No,
I'm almost concerned for you.
You know what the meaning of reasonable is?
No. Stop. No, stop. Wait. Do you recognize that a sex? Do you recognize
to treat you in good faith?
Do you recognize that not all
keep on the topic?
Do you recognize that not all sexual behavior is designed to end in orgasm?
Yes, I understand that.
Okay.
That's the reason why. That is the reason why I do not define sexual acts according to orgasm.
So
I agree
what
with
about
you.
the foot fetish tweet implies orgasm?
In the original, so wait, hold on. So in the original tweet, we are talking about, I want to be very particular with my wording. The question initially is whether or not it was reasonable to be able to say in this situation, whether or not it was reasonable to say that this is something which ends up justifying sex acts in front of kids.
Okay, yes, we are talking about sex acts, not orgasm.
Right. So in this situation, so there's two different things here, right? The first situation is the fact that if we're talking about whether or not this justifies sex acts in front of kids, the answer to that question is yes. I think that is apparent from a plain
like making out
like you already agreed.
Kids. Yes, okay.
You already agreed.
Like doing the hot and heavy makeout in front of kids, right?
So hold on, wait. Let's stay on this topic, all right? We're talking about a foot fetish and appealing to someone's foot fetish. You would agree that is a sex act, right?
Yeah, like a hot makeout. Yes, both of those are sex acts.
All right, so
in fact, I would actually say that. I would actually say that. Wait, Riley, this is not. I'm not interested enough in this conversation for you to think that I'll just mute you instead of hanging up. Riley, to be clear, a makeout sesh is significantly more involved than being barefoot around a person with a foot fetish, okay? In that, there's no physical contact. At least in a makeout sesh, you're touching each other in public. There's PDA there. It's not PDA to look at your partner who's barefoot. So, in fact, the makeout session that I have illustrated here is actually, I think, more inappropriate than the thing that you called Doe a pedophile over. Or, sorry, said it enabled pedophilic arguments over.
So all right, so hold on. So I think that we're almost at like the point of this, right? You would agree with me that this tweet is talking about a sex act. You said that earlier, right?
Yes.
Okay. This tweet is justifying doing a sex act in front of children.
Like,
yes or no?
Yes. Like, I think people should be able to make out in public. Yes. Again,
Okay.
the way you're reducing it is deliberately like clip oriented, but yes.
So the answer, all right. So if I say that this is a kind of argument that leads someone to either negligently or intentionally justify pedophilic beliefs of wanting to be able to involve children in sex acts, I don't think that is an unreasonable read of this tweet, since we have agreed.
No, I think it's insane.
Since we've agreed that it justifies doing sex acts in front of kids.
No, I think that's insane. I think what you're essentially saying is that if you have a makeout sesh with a person and you're in public and a kid sees you and you defend that later.
Do you think that there's a difference between a makeout session and appealing to someone's foot fetish?
Yeah, actually, a makeout session is way the fuck more involved. There's physical contact and people can see what's going on. With a foot fetish, literally nobody knows. Because you're just barefoot. They just see a barefoot person.
Nobody knows, though.
So yeah, so I would actually say that. So first of all, neither of them enable pedophilia. But second of all, that the makeout sesh is actually whatever characteristics you're approximating, the makeout sesh is much more so. So
but it doesn't matter. The whole point is that it doesn't matter if the kids don't know. The point is that you.
But what they see matters, isn't it? That's why we care about PDA.
Being able to do sex acts in front of kids. That is the point. It doesn't matter if they don't know. I would say that their consent is violated.
Yeah, I think I've more or less exhausted my patience here. I would say what you're making right here is an argument that hurts children. I think this is a moralist. Wait, hold on.
What?
I think this is an insane. Riley. I'll mute you. I think this is an insanely moralist argument that serves no purpose other than to dilute the meaning of actual child sex abuse, and you're using it specifically because you have some kind of weird fucking beef with this subject. I think it's borderline reprehensible that you would ever try to hop onto something as innocuous as making out with people in public and use it to justify.
How is that?
Like making out, you think making out in public is tantamount to non-consensually involving children in acts. I hope to God you've never made out with somebody in public, Riley, because if that's what you were thinking of, I'm disgusted. Jesus fuck. I hung up. I would have had to, because there's no condition under which Riley would have ever ended that conversation. Like, Riley probably could have kept going for another 6 hours. That's fucking revolting. This is literally QAnon tier shit. The people who will dilute the definition of like child sexual abuse by fear-mongering over it and invoking like Christian morality in an effort to like make everything they don't like adjacent to child sexual abuse. And child sexual abuse charities are like, please stop. You're actually ruining our ability to really fix this issue. Yeah, like, holy shit. No, it's not. QAnon makes more sense. Yeah, I've never heard a QAnoner say making out in public is tantamount to fucking non-consensually involving children in sex acts. Holy shit. Well, I look forward to her being added to the fucking VDS cabal, but Jesus Christ. Yeah. Vaush, will this be uploaded? Why the fuck not? Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I think this is reprehensible. I think if anything, I'm offended by the bad logic. That's the thing that gets me most. The conclusions here were inevitable. Time for her to write another fake legal document insisting you're more emotional in Destiny. Yeah, fuck. Oh, we didn't even watch the fucking Doe clip. Okay, to be fair, I'll watch the Doe clip. Hold on. So Doe says, so to be clear, by the way, even if Doe in this clip said that the tweet originally entailed an implication of orgasm, Doe has denied that interpretation in its comments in my chat. So it would have been a misspeak, but we'll watch it anyway just for the sake of... I don't think it's relevant because Riley was calling Doe a pedo months before this statement was ever made. But sure, we watched the whole thing before.
Your partner.
It's 3 minutes.
Foot fetish. You go out with your partner. You know that your partner has a foot fetish. You intentionally and primarily do not wear shoes in order to appeal to your partner's foot fetish. There are children around. You do not care that there are children around, but there are children around. Your partner who also does not necessarily care if there are children around, ends up getting off orgasming as a consequence of you specifically appealing to their foot fetish. Do you think that there is any harm incurred to the children, even though they were not, that was not necessarily intentionally a part of the situation?
This isn't about the tweet. This is just an additional, because that's what I thought it was. I thought it was the tweet was another thing, and then it extrapolated and talked about this further.
Yes or no?
From the way you've described that, no, I don't believe a harm was done to those children.
I would reject your framing of this. Violates have harm.
That's not, you haven't described a harm.
Yes, I have. Admitted, you're fine with people being able to get off in front of children, at least in some.
Oh my god, this is edited? This is what I mean, by the way. You can't trust that fuck. RGR, at least her community, was absolutely fishing for clips. Look at this. This is a compilation of the portions of the conversation meant to disingenuously frame Doe. Absolutely disgusting behavior. It's so unfortunate. People like her posture integrity really hard, but I feel like I and Doe have more integrity in our left pinky than RGR has in her entire fucking body. No consistency, no adherence to any actual consistent ethical system, no thought put in, just post hoc moralization combined with incredibly loaded language in a community willing to lash out. Is that pinky bare? Oh, sorry, I gotta keep it gloved for the, right, for the kids. RGR just called Doe a useful idiot, spreading around justifying beliefs that...
Used as a useful idiot. Because even if they are not a pedophile, they are engaging in spreading beliefs that justify pedophilic behavior.
I genuinely do think that RGR's behavior here contributes to hurting children. For a public figure to engage in a moral witch hunt, attached not to any real defense of children and their safety, but rather an attempt at using severe language to justify their... I feel comfortable saying RGR's like... I don't want to be mean. RGR gave me the behavior of like somebody who's ideologically a virgin. Holy shit. Like the whole conversation, like, well, a sex act was designed to get you to orgasm. Like, what? Fucking what? Well, not that. I mean, well, it's, you know, by getting off, I mean, like, what? What the fuck are you talking about? And okay, the thing that I think means that we can write off Riley forever is that at the end, after an unbelievable amount of teeth pulling, we finally isolated the variables. Do you think then that making out in public in the way that I described is tantamount to, and defending that, the ability to make out in public like that, is tantamount to enabling pedophilic arguments? And rather than answer it directly, Riley just started saying, see, you're defending sex acts in front of children. Like, the moment she couldn't run from the implications of her statement any further, she ran back to the euphemized language in order to like maximize the moral harm. You know what I mean? I genuinely don't know if this is like stupidity or very bad faith, but honest to God, you know, honest to God, I think that Riley's just triggered by this subject, and Riley will say or do or justify anything if it arrives at the conclusions that she already holds. I think the discomfort seems like really, really clear. I don't know. Your masculine voice is kind of attractive. There might be children listening. Shut up. Let me see. How long till D suddenly pops in Discord? Oh, he'll be on it soon enough, but that's okay. For the funny thing is, I'm pretty sure Destiny has done all like the thing like it. I'm pretty sure that Destiny has talked about engaging in behavior that Riley would call justifying pedophilia. If he throws his weight behind this, it's only further evidence to his utter brainlessness. Yeah, I should have asked about wearing glasses when your partner has a glasses fetish. Oh god, very stupid. Anyway, not much else to talk about, is there? Do we have anything in particular? Any particularly spicy memes? Donos? We'll get to donos. Thanks. Is the bridge burned? I think that Riley's behavior was abhorrent and destructive towards the aims of helping end the abuse of children. Or to put it another way, if I had Riley Grace Rochon brain, I would call her a pedophile. Thankfully, I don't, so. Making arguments which enable. Do you think Riley's transphobic? I don't know, but I do have to say it was a little bit telling that I insisted that those pronouns were it, and Riley's first response wasn't to say sorry and continue, it was to say, I'll debate you on gender in the future, but in the meantime, I'll use these pronouns. I gotta say, that was definitely a telling... Finally. Fairly telling, I'd say. Yes, slightly sussy-wussy. Thank you. Got a meme for you? Alright, alright, alright. Alright, down into the meme mines. Who's that person? Omniliberal on Twitter? Not omniliberal, omniliberal. Where are you? RGR was calling Doe an abuser for bringing up its history with sexual abuse. Oh, fuck. I have to be clear on something, otherwise I'm going to be accused by Riley in 6 months of enabling abuse towards her community. Nobody go and harass Riley, okay? Don't do it for Riley. Don't do it for any moral reasons. Just do it because if any one of you fuckers is slightly mean to her on Twitter, in 6 months she's going to come back and say that I led a harassment campaign against her. Cry bully shit. Do it for me. You'd do it for me, wouldn't you? You care. Yes. Where is that, Where is that, Oh, Doom Guy. That's the name of this, vaunted individual. Hold on. Sorry, I just accidentally minimized my windows. Thank you. I can see the GGGers seething in chat. Jesus Christ. It's been like 2 of them, actually. I admire your loyalty? Yeah, let's go with that. Thank you. You changed your opinion at the Kink and Pride thing? The initial opinion that I had on Kink and Pride was ill-expressed. The position I eventually settled on, after burning a few bridges, was that I think Pride should be made widely accessible in a non-kink fashion, and that there should be elements of Pride that people can attend with an expectation that there isn't like some super sexual, like kinky, like performative stuff going on. And I adhere to that because I think that makes it easier for young queer people to convince their shitty parents that it's okay for them to go. It's just about an accessibility to like young people or people discomforted with sex sort of thing. That's actually far more nuanced than what you originally said. Like I said, that's what I arrived at. Wait, why are people in chat saying that I'm weaseling at it? Wait, I clearly just lampshaded the fact that my initial position was bad and that I eventually arrived at a different one. How is that weaseling? So outside of the Pride Parade, you're okay with that? Well, yeah, because usually Pride in a city means there's like a dozen events or more going on, and if there are events there that have like leather or whatever, like sure, yeah. I still think you're holding on to mutually exclusive positions. All right, new point. The next time you guys bring this up, I'm going to turn into a homophobe. That's my new position. So yeah. She's gonna write you out in one of these. That's good. Oh, sorry for the volume. That was a louder laugh than I expected. That's pretty funny. Why burn the bridge over one single issue? Are you kidding? It's not about a disagreement. There are a million things wrapped up in it. I'll burn a bridge over one issue, but this was not one issue. Okay? This was yeah, it was mostly the matter of how she engaged with it. Listen, if Riley was just like, look, I feel like we should probably not do sex stuff in public. like, even if it was, like, weirdly Christian conservative, like, you know, like, no holding hands, like, whatever. If that's her position, own it with your chest, you know? But this bullshit pedo jacketing, this, like, oh, actually, if you ever, like, wear a low-cut top, and keep in mind, by the way, keep in mind the position she had while talking to me. She walked back massively from her convo with Doe, remember? Because in Doe, she was flat out saying, yeah, dressing in a way which you find, like, sexually arousing is, like, she full on, yeah, her shit was, but walked back significantly for me. And it wasn't walked back enough. She would have to walk all the way back to my position. she would have had to have kept walking for a long way. You know, traveled through a few mountains and across a valley, and then eventually arrive at my position, and that would have been the good place to stop. But it's a foot fetish. I legitimately think that until this conversation, Riley was under the impression that the only reason a foot fetishist would want to see the bare feet of their partner in public would be to come from it. I actually think that. Riley seemed, I think, bewildered for a bit at the idea of, like, a sexual act not pertaining to orgasm. And you could see her, like, moving from that when I was like, okay, what about, like, pissing on a person's face? What about a chastity cage? You know, stuff like that. Like, orgasm denial is a kink thing, you know? Damn, we still need to find a good lawyer friend. Well. You forgot to bring up furries? Yeah, what about people who, like, wear furries? Or, like, fursuits? Like, people, like, they're like, yeah, I'm a furry, you know? And they wear fursuits, like... I'm sorry. Oh, the memes are out there. Who's your favorite TradCon streamer? Nick Fuentes, Big Papa Fascist, or Riley Grace Rush? It's, oh, we've got a lot here. Look at my lawyer dog. I'm going to jail. Oh my God, she has a fucking Christian. Wait, is she actually Christian? I don't want to be mean to the religious people. She is, yes. Well, there's nothing wrong with... Okay, I've fucked Christians before. They're not all like that. You're trending again? No, please. Please, please, please. I don't see it. I don't see it. I don't see it. Don't say that to me. I don't see it. I don't see it. I don't see it. She came for clout and donated. I don't actually think... Okay, controversial opinion. You know, I'm not great at reading people, but I don't think that Riley, like, clout baits. I think oh God, how mean do I want to be here? Fuck. Technically, she never insulted me in that convo, but I don't think I did anything morally abhorrent, and I think she did, so I feel like I'm justified in that. I don't always have to be nice when they haven't insulted me, do I? I think I think that Riley is really emotional. I think that in a manner which is not narcissistic, but swear to God, it borders on the behavior I've seen from some IRL narcissists. She has this obsession that everyone who disagrees with her must do so because they've misunderstood her position, a fault of their own, and that it would just take one more comment, one more response, one more sentence to bring them over. And when that doesn't happen, she grows increasingly frustrated because she assumes that rationality is not a process, it's a trait that she possesses. And that if people disagree with her, it must necessarily stem from their irrationality. What's more, because she assumes, almost like by default, her rationality, when she reflects upon these things, like this explains the legal briefs, you know? Like the reason why she frames her Twitter beefs in, like, legal documents, it's because she's adopting the aesthetic of professionalism and rationality, not for us, but for her. I would actually bet anything on that the legal briefs, they're not for us. They're not about us. They're for her. She chooses them because it's about proving to herself that she's worthy of that kind of header. She's worthy of that kind of format or framing. That's the impression that I get from her. If that comes off as like super mean, then she can thank me and send me fucking 500, because that's like 6 therapy sessions saved. You can just tell the next person you talk to that, and you're saving so much time and money, okay? But I don't think it's clout chasing, and I don't think it's dishonesty. Oh yeah, we all engage in that to an extent. It's not like I've never had my moments. But yeah. Look, if you all have any energy to direct after this, I think what you should do. Are you really sure Destiny is going to defend her? I'm never sure, but it seems fairly likely. Actually, wait, I wonder. I don't want to look the fool if it's not true. It might not be, but I have a feeling that if he does cover it, he's not going to cover Riley's conversation with Doe. He would cover my conversation with Riley. Even though the whole thing was about Doe and Doe's perspective and all that, I feel like that would be the, could be both, but no, I get that, X. Yeah, not X. Sorry, that's your name in chat. Fuck, Doe. Yeah, Doe. Yeah. Yeah, you know, Doe, we can change your name in chat, like effortlessly. You're just not in here that often. Yeah, chat, if you have any excess energy to expend after all of this, don't expend it on negativity towards Riley. Expend it on positivity towards Doe. I think Doe did a great job. It was a very good showing. Both in form and in content.